Okay, so welcome back to another stream. Everyone's saying I'm fashionably late. That's very funny. I've kind of become a meme now on the Discord for always moving and shifting the time of the stream. But yeah, things happen, life happens sometimes, and that's how things happen. But anyway, today is fun. We're having this is the second iteration of the What's Trending in Fashion live streams. Of course, today we're going to be talking about the Rose new investors. We're talking about Haider Ackermann being the creative director of Tom Ford, and we will be talking about Sarah Burton at Givenchy. So before I jump straight into the topics, what are you guys up to? How is everyone doing? Someone said they're always waiting for the Lanvin stream. That's funny. Running on urban time. Hey, that's how it has to go sometimes. Keen to chat the Row investment, not gonna lie. Leo, do you wanna jump on the live? Do you want to jump in and give your thoughts on the Row? Because it is really an interesting conversation, to be honest. And it definitely wasn't something I was necessarily expecting. For some reason, I just thought that the Row, their intentions was always to kind of stay kind of independent and just like do what they're doing. I almost thought they didn't like care to like expand into like the stratosphere of like a $10 billion brand or something like that. I never thought that those were their intentions, but clearly I was wrong. How did you get your Martine X Supreme before I got mine? It literally just shipped for me today. I have no idea. Maybe because being in the UK, maybe the shipping time is just faster because the stuff that I bought from the collab was shipped from Supreme London. So maybe that's why. Who knows? But yeah, I'm still waiting for my Palace Vivienne Westwood collab stuff that I bought. And the Supreme stuff came like earlier than something I ordered like a week before. Very, very strange. Very strange. They saw your name. You're a Nepo baby. That's funny. Anyway, to jump straight into today's topics. So, of course, the first topic we're talking about today is the Row. And the fact that the Row actually has new investors now, which is actually a very, very interesting conversation to open. If you guys aren't too privy on what's been going on, of course, I'll say, but it would be good to read this article via BOF because BOF have actually done their due diligence and done a lot of research into a lot of the figures behind this brand. So I would definitely say that this article is something that you should check out. But essentially, in summary, to summarize the article, what's been going on is the Wertheimers, who are the owners of Chanel and L'Oréal, have invested in the Row. And there are also a bunch of other companies that have invested in the Row. They have this like joint fund that makes them minority investors and gives them a minority stake in the Row. So it includes the founder of Net-a-Porter. It includes the co-founder of Moda Operandi. So it definitely seems that, a lot of people that work in fashion believe in this brand and they're all putting their money where their mouth is and really investing loads of money. Now, for people that aren't too aware about the Row, that would be very surprising. But in case you aren't too privy to what the Row is, so the Row is a fashion brand, a luxury fashion brand that was started by the Olsen twins, so Mary-Kate and Ashley. It's basically risen to critical acclaim. It's very different to most celebrity brands, which I found very interesting just studying the brand as a case study. Most celebrity brands, because celebrities kind of in a tacky way put their face front and center, what happens is people just view the brands as not luxury and like merch lines for a celebrity. Whereas with the Row, they kind of don't have a big social media presence personally. They don't put their face front and center with the brand. And I have seen journalists and articles kind of claim that one thing that, gives the Row kind of like a USP, a unique selling point, is the fact that they don't have to rely on their stardom for the success of the brand. And I agree with that to a sense, but I also think it's disingenuous to say that, because the reason why the Row was big at the start was because they are rich and famous and celebrities. And therefore, when they started a brand, it was basically their celebrity friends that were wearing the brands. And even though they weren't deliberately trying to endorse things that way, it just so happens that their friends are very influential and have loads of fans. So by the time they start wearing things, that becomes the talk of the town. It's only a matter of time before more people start wearing it. So I definitely think that they use their stardom to start the brand and to pivot into a very successful luxury brand, but they don't rely on it. And that's why I think the Row is viewed very differently to a lot of other brands. It also tends to be the case that because of the Row's price point, it's seen as like really luxury. A lot of people see the Row as the American version of Loro Piana or the American Hermes. And of course, they have like bags that are close to Hermes prices. They're seen as like a cheaper alternative to Hermes. So that's kind of one of the big selling points of the Row. A lot of people like the Row because the Row is kind of like that thing where it's luxury, but it doesn't shout. It's not in your face. It's the kind of luxury where it isn't about logos. It's about silhouettes. It's about tailoring. It's about, this quote unquote quiet luxury that I find a very cringe term. Um, so yeah, that's kind of like the rundown on what the Row is. But as far as the investors go, I found it really, really interesting because the first name, when I saw L'Oréal, I was like, I'm very curious to see what L'Oréal is going to do with this brand. Chanel also. These are two brands that I think are, if they're not careful, they'll have problems in the future, because Chanel have had a lot of issues in the press with their quality. A lot of people have said, the hardware is cheaper, the leather is cheaper, the garments kind of break easily these days. And it's a big problem. It's a big problem across fashion in general, especially in luxury fashion, where they charge these insane prices and you're buying garments that, whether it's worth it or not is a different conversation to have, but the quality is just not on par based on how much these things cost. And now you have companies like L'Oreal getting involved. L'Oreal is very famous for, buying fragrance houses and diluting the formulation of the fragrances to kind of make more money and to improve profit margins. Chanel is known over time, like I've said, to reduce quality of their garments and their products to increase profit margins. And considering that how the Row is marketed and where the Row sits in the market is a brand that is seen as the height of luxury, bar something like Loro Piana or Hermes or those kind of brands. It's seen as like super luxe. It's ultra expensive. To have these kind of, companies like L'Oreal and Chanel that I just know are just going to come in, if they don't, put their foot down and, fight against it, these companies are going to come in and just basically fuck up the quality and just start cutting corners. And I feel like the Row could become a shell of itself. So I'm hoping that that doesn't happen. But that was the first thing that came to my mind when I saw that, okay, these are the companies that are investing. These are the main companies. Yeah, just like Al says, they famously fucked up the Tom Ford formulas. That's what they're known for. It's literally what they're famous for. They really like go in and just start messing up all the formulations and stuff. So I'll be very curious to see how, these things happen. But I think the investment makes sense. It was a surprise to me, but it totally makes sense. A conversation that we have in fashion these days is the fact of a lot of brands are trying to get rid of certain customers and kind of promote their brand to a upper class customer base. They want to be seen as more luxury. It's kind of what Burberry tried to do but failed, where they increased the prices by crazy amounts. It didn't work, and now they're kind of shuffling and struggling. And every brand wants to be where the Row is. A younger brand that somehow is at the price point of close to Chanel and Loro Piana. That is where every single brand wants to be, because what happens is when a financial downturn happens, these brands aren't affected at all, because the type of customer base that would buy, a jacket or a coat for $5,000, $6,000, $10,000, they aren't going to be affected by any sort of economic downturn. And that's why every person wants their brand to sit where the rose sits in the market, to be successful at this kind of price point, because it almost makes you like crisis proof in a sense. And yeah, every brand is just vying for that. And it's also kind of this sense that the row doesn't have to try hard also, because it's very much, like I said, it's not a shouty brand. It's a brand where it's kind of like, if you know, you know, the people that love it, love it. The people that can afford it, can afford it. And they just don't try hard. Like if you look at their social media, look at what they post on Instagram. It's not, they don't really post campaigns or anything. They just kind of post artwork. They're posting a Man Ray lampshade from 1964. Just like really cool, like stuff, a playlist on Spotify, September 2024. They really don't have to try when it comes to marketing, because people honestly believe in this clothing so strongly. And it's very interesting to see. But that's why, to me, when I sat down and thought about it, I was like, yeah, this investment makes so much sense. Everyone wants to be part of a brand, or to have a stake in a brand that isn't really affected by, you know, changing economic situations and stuff like that. And I think the rose sits perfectly in the market. Also, thank you so much, Rachel, for the super chat. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much for always tuning in and being amazing. And I actually have some figures that I found out, because Bloomberg were the people that actually reported on this story. But essentially, they had different people that were suggesting how much the row makes, because they evaluated it at the value of $1 billion, which is insane for a brand, you know, that hasn't been around that long. When you consider that there are luxury brands that, you know, don't make as much revenue, and like storied luxury brands that have been around forever that don't make as much revenue as the row. That's insane, because they haven't been around for like crazy amounts of time. They've been around since 2006, which is a long time. But in fashion years, where in luxury fashion, people kind of market the heritage of a brand, they don't really have a lot of heritage to market in that sense. So that's insane. People have estimated that they make a revenue of 250 million a year, with an operating profit of $60 million a year, which is like just totally insane. And when you think of the investment of the row, also, there is a lot of potential to grow. And reading a lot of the reports that I was looking at, first of all, their menswear is limited. They don't really have a lot of menswear collections. They don't release a lot of things in menswear sizes. And so if they open up their brand to menswear, that's an opportunity to make even more money. They have growth opportunities when it comes to distribution. Their distribution is very, very limited. They don't really do a lot of like beauty products. They don't do a lot of perfumes. They could do more things like homeware. These are all things that they can expand, and they can learn from a designer like Eddie Slimane. Eddie Slimane is someone that, you know, went to Celine, made an amazing fragrance line similar to what he did at Dior, where he started the Dior Privé, which is a Dior private fragrance line. That happened. Of course, since then, Eddie Slimane has increased and expanded the beauty line. You see like bath products now, you see lipsticks, you see foundations, things like that. And Celine makes so much money for LVMH now. It's one of the top 3 brands in terms of revenue for LVMH, which is insane. And I think the row has a lot to learn from that. And in the reports, they were mentioning that one of the reasons why the row was looking for investors is they need a lot of money to start to invest in these things. Like, okay, let's open up some more menswear products. Let's invest in beauty. Let's invest in homeware. Let's increase our distribution. These are things that are very capital intensive. And so they're not really going to be able to do that unless they have big, big investors. And that's where you get, you know, the L'Oreals, the Chanels, the Net-a-Porters, and things like that. So very, very interesting story. Very, very interesting kind of like thing that's happened, because I just really hope they don't mess up the row. I just can see L'Oreal and Chanel, those 2 brands, just cutting corners like every other luxury brand, and before we know it, everything is going to go to shit. And a good example of, some of the risks that can come with this investment, I'll share this tab. So this is one of the really famous pieces from the road, these kind of like jelly shoes inspired by the 80s. And these were really, really big on social media. A lot of people are buying them. And eventually they had to like slow down the production of them because they kept breaking. Literally, the quality was so bad, and they cost $900. They retailed for $900, guys, and they kept breaking. Like loads of people that bought them, they would just like snap to the point where they're like, okay, we need to like kind of stop producing these and actually work on our production. And so even the row itself that is known for, top-notch quality and the highest level of quality, even they have like quality issues that they need to work on and they need to fix. And so when you now have these investors that I don't really trust when it comes to quality. I don't trust Chanel. I don't trust L'Oréal. I just hope they don't bastardize the whole thing. I really, really hope they don't bastardize the whole thing, because I think that would be a damn shame, considering how well I think that the Olsen twins have branded their brand, how well they've, positioned it in the market. When you look at one of their most famous bags, the Margot bag, which a lot of people compare to like Birkins and stuff and say it's like the cool girl Birkin, the more affordable Birkin, the more, like attainable Birkin in a sense. And these go for, here you can see prices £5,500. There's a suede version that is £5,200. The smaller version, £3,400. Like, they are so well positioned in the luxury market from a price standpoint, so perfectly positioned. And these things sell out. Like, look, this bag is sold out. It's £4,400 essentially. These things fly off the shelves. Like, people really, really want these things. Bob says at the end of the day, it's all about money. Let me see what other people are saying in the comments before I continue ranting away. Leo says, I'm very interested to see how the investment impacts their back end to account for increased interest. New product iterations are mostly the storefront expansion opportunities. Now, this is a really good thing to bring up, because something I'm wondering is part of the appeal of the row the fact that it's kind of limited, because things do sell out and some things can be very hard to get. Not as hard as Hermes, of course, but some of it is still really hard to get. Is that part of the appeal? If, of course, these investors come in and improve infrastructure and production to the point where they can produce so many, big quantities, is that a good thing? Will people kind of be turned off the brand because it's not as exclusive? You know how snooty people are. The second that something is too accessible, they're like, oh no, it's too accessible. I don't want to be like everyone else, on to the next brand. Is that a thing that's going to happen? Yoji Cardo Avocado. First of all, thank you very much for joining and being a member. But Yoji Cardo Avocado, I love that name, says, the only ones besides Hermes who have been able to do this insane price surging thing like Bottega is flopping with it. Loewe is too. And yeah, kind of like I said too, Burberry is flopping with it as well. A lot of brands are flopping with it. I think the reason why the Row gets away with it is the prices have been insane from the start. Of course, they did increase their prices and now they're even more insane, but they've always been insane. Like, I've always known the Row prices to not make sense. They've always been out of my tax bracket, like completely out of, any kind of tax bracket that I'm in. Leo says he wants to join. I'd love you to share your thoughts. I'll share the link in the chat right now, Leo, and you can join and share your thoughts on the Row. But yeah, I do hope that they work on the products, because the Row now, like I said, even though people view it as like this high quality brand, there are a few of their pieces that aren't the best quality. And I think a lot of people do believe the hype and just believe that because of the price point, everything is made well, when really with the jelly shoes, for example, you're literally buying plastic shoes for $1,000. That's literally what it is at the end of the day. And if you can afford it, fair enough. But I just don't like that consumers are okay with paying $1,000 for a shoe that just snaps so easily, to the point where they had to literally stop production because of how the bad and negative press and reviews they were getting for it. I just don't understand that personally. Culture says, I've always viewed the row as a Phoebe fill-in. I guess I have heard this, and Culture, I do agree with you to an extent. What I will say, though, is that the row has been around for a long, long time, since 2006. And, you know, at the start, when the row started, they were, you know, doing the Phoebe Philo thing. But I think when the row really exploded into the mainstream was when Phoebe Philo left Celine. Because when Phoebe Philo left Celine, that Phoebe Philo customer that wanted the very luxury piece that's easy to wear, that they can, you know, buy a cohesive wardrobe, which the row offers, timeless pieces, not following trends, not trend driven, well made. There weren't too many options. The only options then were the row. You had Bottega under Daniel Lee. You had Peter Doe. You had Rock. Rock is also someone that worked under Phoebe Philo. Those were the options. So a lot of people flocked to the row. So even though the row were kind of slowly, progressively building their customer base, I think a big explosion and a big jump happened when Phoebe Philo left Celine, because there was a hole that was left and there was a target audience that wasn't, you know, being catered for outside of the brands like Bottega, Daniel Lee, people like Peter Doe or the row, for example. Hello, Leo.
What's up? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you perfectly.
Yeah. Something that we're discussing in the chat, and you also brought up, was the quality conversation that
Right.
L'Oreal has a history of, especially with their fragrance line and so forth, right? And one of the things that I kept on thinking about was, well, the first thing I did was I looked at the portfolios of all the other investment companies that were part of this $1 billion conversation.
Right.
And one of them invested in Skims, so that on one side they've also invested in Square. I think it is Slice. It's the payment portal. They've invested in payment portals
Right. Oh,
and
Stripe.
Farfetch. Yeah,
Yeah.
Stripe and Farfetch, and then a bunch of other brands. So I can't neglect the conversation about quality as you grow, because one of the things I was saying to someone in the chat, I think was Culture, was it all depends on how quickly the row is expected to recoup. Like if they're expected
Right.
to recoup hundreds of millions in a year or 2 years, especially given the economic time and climate we're in, then we can all just say quality is going down the line. No matter what price they put down, like if you expected to do it quickly, then
Right.
you can't find certain factories, because at LVMH and Kering, they have factories that won't let you in the door if you're not part of that conversation.
But isn't that so off-brand for the row? Because the row is supposed, like, the row is the brand that tells people they can't use phones because they don't care about social media. The row is the brand where the two people that basically started it barely have a social media presence. Like the Olsen
Mhm.
twins, I don't even think they have an Instagram. So like,
Nah, they low key.
so they're supposed to be low key. Everything's supposed to be low key. It's so off-brand for a brand like the row to start just frantically trying to sell loads of products and like being desperate about it. That's so like off-key for the row.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's the issue, it's the blessing and the curse that comes with getting massive investment, even if it is from a bunch of different parties, right? Because to me, when I first heard the news, I thought, okay, cool, a bunch of storefronts. Like you're gonna start going into maybe more stores in Europe, a couple in Asia,
Right.
and slowly rolling out products that method. And one of the things I also thought about was their valuation also has a lot on potential. So in business, you have two sides of the coin, which is like your investment is on what you currently possess, IP, product lines, so forth. And then the other side of
Right.
it is what you can present that can be monetized in the future. So as we speak about menswear and so forth, they may never even have to go into an extensive menswear line. They could have more accessory lines, different kinds of accessories, fragrances, luxury experiences,
Mm,
because they can just look at it and say, well, how do we expand without shooting ourselves in the
yeah.
foot?
It's because
Um, yeah.
with the row, because they do, I'm even going through the menswear now on their website. They do have menswear, but like I said earlier, it's limited. And a lot of the products that people want like some of the silhouettes of the women's wear that a lot of men would want to buy. They don't make them in men's sizes. So even though they do make menswear, a lot of the menswear pieces that they have, people aren't really interested in.
Well, it's very interesting. I think maybe the only parallel I can think where they could do something, or not the only, but I think of maybe a Kiko example where there's somewhat of a menswear creative designer brought in that focuses on that, and maybe the house looks to expand in that manner where you have there's cohesion in the fact that they're releasing at the same time at first, and you kind of have certain cues and codes that you abide by season, and then you can grow both of these things. But
Right.
this valuation a lot more tells me that it's storefronts. I know it may not look like it, but they only have 3 stores as it stands apparently, right? They have hero products already, and they are being marketed, or let me say promoted. Their PR and everything is being done against Phoebe Philo, Bottega's, and all of these ones. Phoebe Philo's opening storefronts now. Bottega has storefront presence in a lot of countries that some are just purely bags and, you know, certain smaller pieces. This is the answer where it's like, it looks like in some countries they may just have a bag presence, maybe a few hit items, and maybe your sales assistant can order something for you. And luxury experience from the row is going to be emphasized rather than, let me not say rather than, but in addition to luxury product and the air of having something that is a quiet luxury in inverted commas, because I hate that term.
Yoji Cardo Avocado said, there's a reason why actual quality brands like Greedy, MA Plus, Alina Dawson, etc. are so much smaller scale, because you cannot scale this up and stay profitable and ethically done. I do agree with you to a point. I totally agree, because the kind of factories that do like the quality control is really rigorous aren't huge, and the second that you need to like increase production is when you start outsourcing to like factories that can produce like, you know, 2,000 jackets a year or something insane like that. And at that point, how can you quality control 2,000 jackets a year? Like, how?
There's not enough hires for that, especially with the way that they run their business. Like, the amount of hires required to like go 5 times over, double your current production line is insane. I don't think people understand, like, if they're doing limited runs or not a lot and prioritizing quality, and then all of a sudden you want to go hyper quality, hyper size, hyper production, you're talking about 5 quality control agents globally, and that's expensive. Like, yearly, that's expensive.
But I can imagine like the investors from Chanel and L'Oréal especially, they're licking their lips because they're thinking, if we can cut corners, these profit margins are insane. Like, they're selling t-shirts, wool t-shirts for like £1,100. Like, the profit margins are disgusting.
I think Chanel is licking their lips because they found an answer to, like, they don't have to have presence in certain places because they have the row that adds to their portfolio. They have another brand that's like, oh my gosh, they can add to this American answer to a lot of brands we were supposed to compete with. So whatever hire we make at Chanel for CD is like, it's fine. Like, we good. These guys got this other stuff that adds.
This is actually a really good question I want to ask, because I'm curious to know what your thoughts are. Do we look at the row as more luxury than Chanel? And why I'm asking this is, when people compare the row, they say that the row is an American Loro Piana or Hermes. No one actually mentions Chanel.
Okay, here's my answer, and I feel like it's going to sound like a dodge, but my answer is a lot of what the PR around the row is to position yourself with brands that are like exclusive. And by exclusive, I mean like some level of inaccessible, like Loro Piano's marketing, Loro Piano's way of sitting and getting to a store, like even Hermes, the way that they pitch their bags to certain things, like their PR team does more work in pitching themselves against brands that are exclusive and or somewhat inaccessible, regardless of your financial ability. I think Chanel can anyone, if you have the money, can get into Chanel. Now, granted, there are products that they'll say they don't sell and you need to know the right SA and so forth to get in, but it doesn't beat what the Bottega sell
Hmm.
is in terms of quality, air of luxury, air of exclusivity. Like it's a different thing. But also at
Do you
the
know
same
why?
hand, I feel like
Do you know why I was asking that question?
yeah,
Because obviously Chanel is like a storied historical house, right?
yeah.
And it's weird to think that, a brand that literally came up in the 2000s is seen as like more luxury than like one of the most famous luxury houses in the whole world. But it's kind of
Mm.
true. That's why I wanted to pose the question, because even people in the chat are saying, the fact that Chanel had cheap Luxottica sunglasses, or the fact that it's a lot harder to get the road than it is to get something from Chanel. And then
Yeah, I
obviously
mean,
more people dupe Chanel, all those kind of things. So,
but the duping
it's
of
very
Chanel
different.
and accessibility of Chanel worked for a point. Like when those bags, their signature, or I don't even know if they still call it their signature bags, but their bags kept on rising in price year by year after 2020 to where we are
Right.
now. Like the duping adds to it because on the other side, there are people who want the legitimate. So that is a consideration that has to be had. I think not even the question, the thing I'm thinking about also is Chanel are not necessarily in the best graces with the inner fashion crowd and some of outer circles because of quality conversations
Right.
and ethical
Right.
conversations, whereas the role hasn't reached a point where that can be a conversation. So this investment and them not even looking at it as competition kind of answers that in some ways.
Exactly why I pose the question, because if they already see the row as like it's positioned as more luxury than Chanel, then they don't see it as competition. So they're not trying to use like information that they get from the row to kind of put back into Chanel. They're just going to run
Mm.
the row as like a separate entity.
I assume they will run it as a separate entity purely because of scope, like where the row is situated and coming
Right.
from, and what consumer base they have amassed since 2006. Like one of the things when you ask the question of Chanel and whenever we discuss it, but those three creative directors that have been suggested, I look at it and I go, okay, who do you bring as a consumer? Like which sort of people move with you? And
Right.
that is sometimes a consideration in these job things. It's across the board. Like in any business, like if you're in a high position, it's who do you bring that we couldn't get ourselves, no matter how we shifted our business and PR. And the role since 2006, even if they're not storied, they have an extensive list of celebrities that are now breaking the 50 million USD mark in terms of
Yeah.
like valuation and net worth, that are almost indebted to these two, the Olsen twins. Like they look at it and they're like, I've been buying this idea of luxury from you and this idea of being able to step out and be almost like a commoner when the paparazzi take a picture of me sometimes, but I'm wearing, $10,000 worth of clothing.
Yeah.
They have these sorts of things that Chanel didn't have because Chanel had an older consumer and then the younger consumer was only buying the bag and fragrance. So that
Yeah.
gap is hard to bridge. It's so hard to bridge when you really think about it, unless you hire
And it's
someone like
also
Jacquemus.
aesthetically, the row is just so different to Chanel. Like aesthetically, the row is more akin to like Jill Sander
Mm,
or like Le Mer or like those kind of brands. Obviously, there's obviously the brands that people associate them with, like Peter Doe or like Phoebe Philo herself. Because obviously she
mm.
started her eponymous label now. But those are more the brands that you consider when you like Jill Sander, Peter Doe, Phoebe Philo when you think of the row. But none of those brands are even close in terms of price or like how people view them in the luxury space.
It's the row is a very interesting. The main reason I think it's a very interesting conversation is because for a brand that started in 2006, their PR has put them in a conversation with brands that are like 50 years plus. Like, and then
Right.
they've gotten a billion USD valuation and had different sorts of hedge funds and capital investment firms. Like in the business side of it, that's why I said the back to back is interesting. Like, what sort of payment terminals are you using so that, like, where does that save you money? Where does that make you a better business? What sort of like connections and conversations put your brand in a place where maybe, this is me being optimistic and hopeful, you don't have to cut costs on production because your back end is so done well. Maybe you can afford to stay smaller because the share of profit you're making is larger because your brand is connected in so many different ways. Maybe you're doing more interesting things. sometimes I'm hopeful because we can talk about designs all the time. Everyone will say it's a Phoebe Philo, Jill Sander lookalike brand with bags
Yeah.
that fight with Bottega, and it's hard to fight because they've acknowledged that it's a Phoebe Philo. It filled the gap that
They
Phoebe had.
have. They have. And also, they're not like designers with a capital D. Like, they weren't out
Mm,
here, on the floor making patterns and stuff. Like, it is a brand where they saw an aesthetic they liked and they kind of replicated it, but also packaged it in a more luxury way, which I thought was a very smart move from them. And it was even more smart that they didn't associate the brand with themselves. They didn't call it, I don't know, the Olsens or something. You know what I mean? They called it the Row.
that would have killed
Um,
it though. No one is winning in that war anymore. I think we're in an era where you can't put your name on something and if you're not like a designer and it wins,
yeah,
it's
because it
it's
just
weird,
you
but
can't get away from the associations of, oh, it's just a celebrity brand. But
yeah.
I don't think people buy the Row because they care about the Olsen twins. I think people buy the Row some because of like elitism and like
Mhm.
snobbery, some
Facts.
because they just have that much money and they just want a nice looking coat. And I guess they just don't want to like try any other brands like Jill Sander or Phoebe Philo herself, like her label or
Yeah.
whatever. So they just go to the Row. Because I think also some people, especially people with a lot of money, they just like to stick with one brand. It's easier. Like, you don't have to
Yeah.
think as much. It's just like, okay, I buy the Row every month. Let me just go to the Row and see what they've got available right now. And it's too much stress to go and see, okay, let me look at Jill Sander. Let me look at the Phoebe Philo offering. Let me look at what Peter Doe is doing. Let me look at what Rock is doing. Let me look at what,
Unless they're
you know,
invited. Unless
exactly.
they're invited to. I mean the only rebuttal I say is like they had an advantage, like I said, like we were discussing earlier, where it's like they had consumers and certain high value in terms of like spend customers that they've met through their own personal lives and what they've done that
Yeah,
followed early on, and they can bring that wherever, and then catapult off that. The Olsen twins have had their own personal lives where they've met extremely wealthy people that have put them in rooms and positions to do certain things that a designer may not have the
exactly.
ability to
Wouldn't,
do.
yeah. Because even the rooms they can get in because they have access to these rooms are already like, even down to like production, who
Mm,
they can, the kind of factories they can use, the kind of people they can get contacts with, like, because their contact book is insane compared to like
oh,
some
it's
designer that just
massive.
graduates from fashion school and like you don't really have like industry connections. Like, you can't get favorable figures from a factory. Factories are not going to give you discounts per item that they produce because
They're not going to
they
listen
don't
to
know
you. They're not
you.
going to
Like,
answer your email.
yeah.
Your email's getting quick.
And it's such a big advantage. And that's why when I was saying earlier that, some people say that they don't use their celebrity status, I think they don't as much as any other celebrity brand, but they definitely use it and they definitely benefit from it just by having the contacts and having the start of their consumer base being this like really, really rich, like all my friends working
I
Hollywood
mean,
and our
Mary
celebrity
Kate was married
singers.
to Olivier Sarkozy. He's like a French banker, like used to be part
Yeah.
of like French banking system. Like we're talking different sorts of conversations here when it's these two. It's not like Rihanna with LVMH trying to do that. It's not like Ivy Park Adidas. It's no. I've got French banking system connections. Like there's a different chat there. Like you can have access to loans that allow your brand to be completely different. That another
Exactly.
another group, and that adds to your valuation. That's the other point of it. Like when people look at the 1 billion and they're like, oh, it's a simple brand, they make simple things, rah, rah, rah. It's some sort of luxury overpriced. I'm like, yeah, that's cool, but like, do you have the connection to certain banking people in banking? Do you have client books that people have unnecessary amounts of finances on their side? It's
Exactly.
like, I'm interested to see the business. I hear people's concerns about the quality because it is a serious question. If we see 8 shows in a year with a bunch of resort collections, like an LA resort collection, then yeah, chop it, charge it. Skims collab, charge it. Then you know
Skims collab with the road just doesn't make any sense to me at all.
it
But it's
starts
weird
like that.
because
But if they want to go athleisure, you've got the connection right there. You have them fighting with Lululemon, Aloe, and all of them. it's a joke at first, and then you see the collection in front of an Erewhon, and you're like, wow, this is insane. But it's like that's how these things happen. You just need the right like you need the context. Like there's
Yeah,
conversations in the business world about how like private bankers at like Goldman Sachs connect clients, and then you end up having these major business deals and so forth. And that's what certain investment funds and hedge funds tend to do, where they just connect each other so that they, one, save money, but two, make way more profit, because you don't have to sign deals there that you have to offer
right,
someone front end and back
right.
end. Also, it's just back end, where you're using an integrated system that you already purchased, and Bob's your uncle,
And you have to think that the rose profit margins, because most luxury brands spend so much damn money on marketing, and the row just don't even bother with like a lot of marketing because they don't need to, honestly, because
Mm,
they've done it in a smart way. They've branded it and marketed it in a smart way where they don't have to do all these like insane campaigns all the time and like pay for influencers to wear their stuff and like do all these activations for influencers in Paris, or all these different things that
yeah.
luxury brands do. Have dinners with influencers so that they can post about it. They don't have to do that. And so that makes their profit margins even better than most luxury brands out now, because their marketing spend is significantly higher.
Yeah, I'm assuming their PR team must be paid well, because their PR team knows when to tell stories about, the no phone show, who to tell
Right.
so that the story sounds right, like who's writing about the role and how information's fed, where they do the shows gets talked about. Like it's a very well thought out marketing plan that they have in their team. Their PR works very hard. So, people can criticize the look of the clothes, but it's the conversations happening around it are evident. The billion-dollar valuation is happening. And it's not a joke anymore. We have it live and direct, guys. The rose worth a
Yeah.
billion.
Culture says, my question is, how is the row going to be shown going forward? They don't need so many shows, but will that change? And that's the thing, because that's the thing about investors and their expectations, because you have to think about it this way, right? At the end of the day, the row is supposed to be like at least it's branded like a slow brand.
Mm.
And so if they start doing 15 collections a year, it's off brand and they'll lose their core audience very quickly and everything will go tits up. If there's so many things they can't do, because I just think it'll backfire.
Yeah, I agree with that. I just think it's scary because of that's why I kind of said at the beginning, it depends how quickly their investors think that they need to recoup on that investment.
Like
Because I
the
mean they
row
probably have,
customer,
yeah.
these people have money. Like these are rich celebrities. Like these are millionaires, billionaires, like lawyers that are partners, like bankers. Like these aren't, the second it starts going too tacky and they start over marketing it and then people feel like it's not exclusive anymore, all of them are going, literally.
Yeah, no, 100%. They lose a lot if they start. If I see a resort collection done in a funky town in the US, it's game, bro. Like it's game. It's game, bro. Like, because that's the thing, you're sitting on it. It's the scariest thing I think sometimes in business is people think it's starting, which is very hard. 100% starting is hard. They obviously had an advantage, capital access from being actresses and etc. etc.
Yeah,
But it's when you have to make that major pivot that like that wrong turn you make can like throw away 40% of your consumer base and like 80% of the work you've done. And it's
right.
like, ooh, because you're in the conversation with Chanel's now. Like Chanel has invested in you, and we seen what's happening to Chanel. We don't know where Chanel goes next. We can guess. We can also guess with this, but I mean, we have a clearer direction with the row, I would argue, of where it will go.
Yeah, someone said, I think the investors will force some change, but what? Yeah, I kind of touched on it earlier. There's a lot of growth potential because there's a hole in like they don't do a lot of beauty products, which is, it makes perfect sense why L'Oréal obviously is getting involved with a brand that makes this much money without a very extensive beauty portfolio. That is 100% why L'Oreal is involved. Like, they're literally just going to come and be like, use our infrastructure. Let's start making perfumes that are really luxury. And because it's the row, they'll literally sell these perfumes for like $2,000 a bottle. Like, their profit margins are going to be disgusting. Like, their profit margins, L'Oreal's going to come here and start making facial moisturizers that sell for $400. Like, they're going to start making $3,000 lipstick. Like, that is literally what L'Oreal is going to come and do, because it's such a big, area for brands, like the beauty market. And then, of course, you have menswear that can be expanded. There's a lot of work that can be done. Obviously, they have really strong bags. That's what a lot of people go to the row for, but there's more that could be done there. So there are like different elements where there's a potential for growth. I'm just hoping that they do it in the way that the row is known to do it, in a slow way, trying to keep the quality the same. Even if they're trying to increase distribution, kind of do it in their way. They can obviously invest in more homeware as well, homeware collection.
That's a big one.
So there's a lot of things they can do, to be honest. Like, when you really look at it, there are a lot of product categories that they can look into.
I guess the question I'd ask people in general, because I have no answer, I'm not in the makeup industry, but like, if they went extensively in the makeup industry and just came out with a bunch of products immediately, would that turn people away?
If they do it immediately, yes, I think it will. I think they need to like do it slowly, which is what the row does. The row is not the kind of brand that just like releases 50 products at once. That's not the row way. That's very, very off-key and off-brand for the row. It doesn't make sense. That's not the way the row does things.
Yeah, I can definitely see homeware going triple platinum. Their homeware would
It would
I
be
can see the
insane.
Architectural Digest, every celebrity would be like, and I got this from the row. Thank you, Ashley and Mary Kate. Like, I can see it already. Like, it'll be in films. Like, I see the pipeline already of like their homeware. Because even if when we showed the Instagram, the first thing I thought is, when a brand shows you art, music, and a little bit of clothes, it's homeware. It's like, this screams on making homeware. And
because their
which brand
Instagram
was
is
it?
along those lines. Like, look at this, like a lampshade from 1964. They
They
could
clearly
make something that's a lampshade and like sell it for thousands of dollars, and people would buy that
That's it
stuff.
right there. I see the vision. They just charge a stupid amount for stuff. They're gonna sell other people's art. Like, it's gonna go down that path. I don't know who it was. We spoke about it. Someone else. There's other brands. It might be Kith or ALD also sell art. Oh no, they sell Rolexes and stuff. But they're brands that sell art in their stores. Like, that's the next way. People are gonna sell art, homeware. Like, you go into the shop and it's a one-stop shop. Everything. You get
For everything, literally.
cosmetics. You get your baby pram, you get maybe a few baby shower clothes for the friends, your bag to take all the stuff in, you get a new lampshade, a couch, and then you go out. Bob's your uncle.
Aaron says the row is the embodiment of less is more, and that is why it will now hold and stand on a more exclusive and luxurious pillar than Chanel will. Yeah, that's why we had the conversation earlier where we came to the conclusion that people view the row as more luxury than Chanel in this current time. Undersit says beauty companies often invest in fashion brands because when they release cosmetics, the value of their stock nearly always increases. Oh yeah, that's a good point too, because once you start expanding your product base, it only makes sense for the stock to go up. And if they were to sell it immediately after, they would make so much money.
And the margins on the cosmetics industry is insane. Like, the
It's
margins,
disgusting.
I think maybe the most expensive thing would be how you promote the product, because some of the stuff that they do is tell you about an ingredient they found in South America that hasn't been used for hundreds of years and it's great for your skin, and add revitalizing on, say it's FDA approved, and boom, I'll probably pay for the FDA approval and you done, you made 100 million. Like,
honestly, I find this prospect of every brand being a one-stop shop like a department store horrifying. The amount of waste is nauseating. I totally agree with you. I'm with you on that one. But for the sake of like a business conversation, I feel like that's where they would go with it. because that's just how major corporations see things.
Finn is saying they already sell furniture and art. Yeah, I think he might have said it before. So
Yeah.
more.
We're just
You can't
saying
stop
it'll
now.
happen more. And they'll have like full-on extensive homeware collections which they can expand. Which I can just see that happening. I honestly can just see that happening in the near
Once they
future.
tap into the Asian market fully, like they just go there and kill the game. Like, I mean, it's not a promise. Let's just be real. Like, it's not a promise they will, but you know, they can go there and have some fun. You know, do something interesting. I hope.
Yeah, 100%. Michael says the Rose probably going to introduce a fragrance in a low-key way and charge $350 to $400. I just feel like they'll charge more than that because that's the price of like Dior's private line or Celine's fragrances, like the big bottles. I feel like the Row, because it's seen as more luxe, they would have to like slightly, it'd have to be like $600 or $700. It has to be outrageous. But yeah, the profit margins of fragrances are insane because when you're a brand, when you're a company like L'Oréal, sorry, the economies of scale are insane because they buy these raw materials in such bulk that to make a bottle of perfume is not even costing them like $1 in raw materials, even if they're using like what are considered expensive ingredients, like more natural materials and stuff like that. It's still dirt cheap for them because they just buy them in so many quantities. Because L'Oreal owns the rights to too many fragrance lines, like way too many. So they just bulk buy raw materials across like how many perfume divisions. So the economies of scale for a company like L'Oreal is insane. Like even if they're charging $700, the max it's costing like 10 to $15 for them. Because the reason why niche perfume is expensive, apart from it not being as readily available, the economies of scale being worse, is also when these companies are so tiny, it costs them loads of money in raw materials because they buy very small quantities. That is not the case for L'Oreal. So even when L'Oreal has one of their companies making luxury fragrances, it's very cheap for them to make. So the profit margins, they're laughing to the bank with the Row once they start a fragrance line.
Yeah, they laughing to every bank, global banks, Swiss banks, French banks, every bank. They laughing. I think I think it's very interesting, especially because of how they present a lot of their Instagram and stuff. I think even they'll save a lot on marketing because they'll do such interesting bottle design. I know this is like me assuming
Right.
quite a lot, but you can if you look at the path, they're priming their customers to see certain things as out of the box. Sorry for lack of a better term, but like the clothing doesn't have to be, because it's everything else will be a backdrop for how simple and clean and the clothing will be, but everything else is like somewhat extravagant, somewhat inspired by Hellenistic period Greece, or it would be Roman inspired. Like that vase, immediately I'm like, oh yeah, I can see what sort of timing they're getting on with some of this stuff.
Right.
And that's 1930, and you see this.
Yeah, because they're just
And yeah.
posting art that they
Oh,
find
Francis
interesting.
Bacon even. Oh yeah, we're
I've seen
done.
some Salvador Dali artwork here. So it's just like clothing, and then in between, just like artwork, homeware, all these kind of things that they're interested in.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, this picture we're looking at is this still is like 65 weeks ago. Like they don't even have a crazy like crazy not engagement, but like amount of posts and so forth.
Yeah.
So they're
They don't have
playing like,
crazy engagement either. Like 2,000 likes for a brand that has, let's see, how many millions of followers do they have? 2.5 million
2.5.
followers isn't good engagement at all, but it's
That's
because it
true.
doesn't matter. The kind of people that buy the Row, like a lot of them aren't liking pictures of the Row on Instagram, to be honest. So
Yeah,
it
they don't
doesn't
even
really
want you to know
matter.
that they're on the Instagram. Some of these people is
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's interesting. It's actually very interesting. Like I think for how they present themselves, the role can go so many ways, but at the same time, it's almost like if we all sat down, like everyone here sat down, we could probably guess the next move, and then they'll just charge like 7,000 USD for whatever we think that they're gonna do, and it's like, oh, okay, cool. Is it
Yeah.
gonna work though? Is it just that thing?
Jennifer said, I feel like we're having the expensive convo that Styles Like Guys just had about Totem, Kite. Those brands are expensive cause. I mean, like, if we're talking about like design, because obviously you've talked about a business, we're having a business conversation. From design, there's absolutely zero revolutionary about the Row designs beside their bags. But the clothing, there's absolutely nothing original about it if we're going to have that conversation. But you know, if customers are willing to pay for it, then that's why it's a viable brand. And I think that they've branded their way into creating such a strong and substantial brand, even though it's completely unoriginal.
I
But
mean,
yeah,
that's
if we're
part
having the
like,
originality conversation, it's not original at all.
but I think that's part of like how they got to where they did. Like you always talk about how like they filled the gap between the Phoebe Philo eras, and especially in the most recent one before her namesake was
Yeah.
had come back. But if I bring it to a very business point of it, is like, yeah, why would I change anything when all of the market research I would have had to do has been done by other brands where I can see their best products, their winners, everything. Take some of the people that used to work at some of their brands because they don't have jobs maybe, or they they disgruntled in their current positions, and slowly roll into the next phase of what we're gonna do. And you know, it's yeah, we're gonna see a lot. I think even what Finn said earlier, he was talking about they're gonna change fabrics. I think that's probably, I would have thought
Yeah.
by now they have quite an extensive list of fabrics. But yeah, I mean, you can never have too many, apparently, you know?
Yeah. Understood says, I wonder if the hype is so big right now and the marketing is so classic, if it's got a bit overvalued and won't see the heights they're expected to reach right now. I guess that's a good question to ask. I just feel like there's so much growth potential because they haven't even started like the big money makers like beauty yet. I just can't see how they're going to be worse off after making beauty products. But I think outside of the beauty stuff, if the clothing starts to get watered down and the Chanel comes and the Wertheimers come and start doing their cutting corners thing, the brand is going to get watered down very fast. And I think people lose interest because what is appealing about the Row? The fact that it's luxury, how it's branded, the associations that you associate with the Row, the fact it's seen as like a serious brand for serious women, right? That care about quality and timeless pieces. All of that breaks down the second that the quality goes down, because once the quality goes down, there's nothing left. There's nothing original there. Like I can get the same silhouette at Phoebe Philo literally now on Phoebe Philo's website. So if the quality starts to break down, what else is there? Like the clothing isn't that original. Like I said, I could literally go to Phoebe Philo the same way. So if Chanel come in and fuck up the quality, that's that's a disaster. That's a total disaster.
Yeah, 100%. I think the hype probably accounts for a lot of the valuation. But part of why we can't disregard it is they have so much like cultural cachet in that hype. Like when we have
Right.
a conversation about the idea of quiet luxury, unfortunately, they are one of the first names you're going to have to bring up. I hate the term. That's kind of my thing. But like, if you have that conversation and you ignore them, then you may be replacing it with Phoebe Philo again, maybe now. But even she doesn't have the same hype in the space as the Row does now, and the cultural culture and the zeitgeist. Maybe in the fashion circles, she probably has more because there's layers to it.
100%.
It's like how far out of the enclosed fashion circle are you to actually respectably have that hype? Well, not just hype, but the valuation. It's potential. It's how much you are worth now in the space. Because if I can invest in the space, who else do I go for? You know, you may not have access to get into a Bottega to spend your 300 million.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Observing the Matrix says, I think people also underestimate the possibility of Chanel intentionally ruining them over a few years to rid them of the competition. I totally believe that will never happen, because that's an expensive way to ruin a brand. Like, why would you spend all that money just to try and ruin a brand? I don't see a world in which that happens. Hi, Finn.
What's up, Finn?
Okay, his mic is muted.
Hi, sorry, my Wi-Fi was fucked.
Oh, no.
Okay, how are you?
I'm getting over a Fashion Week cold, but I'm good.
Oh no. What are your burning thoughts on the Roe conversation and the investment?
Never had a burning thought about the Rose, but I think that the Chanel investment is very interesting. Actually, me and Unstitch spoke about it on text the other day. I think we are going to see a perfume.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? That's the only, I can see that happening in the next 18 months, and I bet they've already worked on it. Do you know what I mean? But then even, I was thinking about niche perfumes from brands. Everybody always thought that Rick Owens was going to release a really commercial perfume for ages.
Right.
And then they did that one. Have you seen the one perfume they did?
I don't think I have, but I know he did a lot of stuff with, is it Aesop?
Yeah, so he did a one-off collaboration. They did a perfume with that.
Right.
But he did one that Michelle led. And you could only buy it in their flagship stores, and it was £1,000 a bottle.
And if Rick Owens is charging that, I just feel like the Rose is going to charge more.
Yeah, no, exactly. Sorry, yeah, that was the point. Like, they're literally going to charge up the fucking nose. What was I going to say about the Row? I mean, do you know, I was talking to my friend who's an exec, and she's an exec at Nike. And she has bought anything between Dior. She used to be a huge Rick customer, right? I keep bringing up Rick, but I guess that's my friendship group. She used to be a huge Rick customer. She used to buy Crocodile Rick jackets. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Then she went to Dior with Maria Grazia, and I was like, why have you done that? And she was like, look, the reason why I wear Dior is because nobody comments in the boardroom, but I look expensive. And then I said, do you buy the Row? And she said, not on my fucking Nelly. And I was like,
damn.
Why not? Because she was like,
damn.
But she kind of made a fair point when she was like, I don't want to look like a child with a what's it called? Not a hedge fund, a trust fund.
Yeah. Wow.
You know, and she was like, you go to New York, and she lives in, ironically, she lives in Boston, which is so weird. But, she was like, you go to New York, and the only people wearing the Row are now influencers or people who live on the Upper West Side. And she's like, at some point, that actually tarnishes your image.
Does she? But then, how do they know it's the Row though? Because I'm being so honest. I'm not even trying to be shady. I can't distinguish like the Row from Phoebe Philo on the street, or like some of Daniel Lee's Bottega. Like, they all just look the same, or like even old Phoebe Philo, Celine. They all just look the same.
Yeah, but then at the same time, I mean, I'm a huge Phoebe Philo for Celine fan, so I actually can tell the difference. But I would say there is some defined, like the bags, for instance, is the Margot.
Yeah, the Margot.
The Margot I'm seeing everywhere in London now.
Yeah, I talked about it earlier.
It's like it's a Margot pandemic. During Fashion Week, I saw more fucking Margot bags than I did any other bag. I was like, I thought these were hard to get.
Understood says what Finn is talking about is what I was talking about, it being overvalued right now. Oh, because of the hype.
Totally. Yeah. I think, do you remember, basically, she copied a shoe that Phoebe Philo did for Celine that was a copy of a Helmut Lang shoe, which is like a boot with a zip on the front.
No surprise. That's the pipeline, because Phoebe Philo did copy a lot of Helmut Lang anyway.
Yeah,
It's normally like Phoebe Philo took Helmut Lang stuff, and then people just like catted Phoebe Philo's clothing to the ground.
I think people forget how much hate she got for how much she copied Jill Sander and Helmut Lang.
Did she get hate though? I feel like when I talk about it, people like hate me for bringing it up. Like people like, why are you acting like she's like? People get really angry when I talk about her copying Jill Sander or Helmut Lang. So I don't know if she got a lot of hate for that.
Interesting. But in terms of the row, sorry, I'm actually trying to be concise for once, which never happens. I think that once the hype dies, and I think it will die, they will struggle. And I think they will need a perfume to keep them alive. A bit like prior to Virginia Viard, Chanel was actually struggling a little bit. You know, and then she brought in things like denim, which completely changed their ready-to-wear game. And then she had queues outside to buy her denim, which is wild.
Right.
But my friend is their head of shoe design at the moment. Director of shoe design, I think.
At the Row?
Yeah.
Okay.
And she was at Loewe and Bottega and Celine. And she said...
Interesting.
Yeah. But she also did, before going to the Row, a season at Kate's.
Oh my God. There's all the brands all in one. Like the whole...
But
it's the holy square.
The American brands actually pay them good money, because they've got money. But she was saying that.
Oh, does he disappear? I think he's disappeared.
Oh no, they got him.
They got him, guys.
They got him.
They got Finn. Oh no, what happened?
He was telling about too many hires. He was exposing everyone's job here.
He said too much. They had to shut him down. Oops.
Everything is getting shut down.
I told you guys, everything's getting shut down. They don't even want me to go through Vogue Runway anymore. They're like, you guys have said too much on the stream.
Yeah. Finn was telling them about all the bags that were at Fashion Week, and they were like, no.
Sniped by the Olsens. Finn got taken out by LVMH.
Oh.
I'm out.
Yeah, what happened to you, Finn? Did they get to you?
Honestly, I feel like I just got cyber attacked.
If you're safe, say hello 3 times.
Beetlejuice.
No, see, no, I was just playing around.
But no, yeah, she said it was the most free environment. It is the most free environment she's ever worked in.
Oh, nice.
So, and they were like, they will literally let her do anything that she wants in terms of shoes, which is kind of...
I mean, it's a good thing and a bad thing. Part of it is because, without being mean, once again, they're not...
Sorry,
they're not...
Yo.
said the top that James said, that's funny. They're not like, you know, designers that can really... They're not McQueen, you know what I mean? They're not going to like give loads of pointers on like how to design a shoe because they probably don't know how to themselves. They just have like a very strong taste level that's obviously heavily inspired by Phoebe Philo, and they just want that to be pushed through the brand, right? So I can understand why she has the freedom to do more things there.
Definitely. But apparently from the ready-to-wear point of view, they are very involved. Like they're with the pattern cutters. And I don't like the brand.
Why not? I'm just curious.
It's not for me. I think we've had this conversation before. Like when I was younger, I was obsessed with this idea. Like I love Phoebe Philo, right? And when she was at Celine, I used to buy like I was so obnoxious. I used to save money to buy Phoebe Philo at Celine. Like, bleh. you know, and now I'm at a point where I'm like, I actually don't care if I look like I have money or not, because I know whether I do or not.
Right.
You know, and it's just boring. It's so boring. And cashmere coats do not cost that much.
To make, but obviously a lot of brands sell them at exorbitant prices.
But even Laura Piana, like, you know, Laura Piana is the number one supplier of top level fabrics in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
Even theirs are not that expensive, but I guess there's an argument it's direct to consumer. But
yeah,
I don't know. I do sit there sometimes and I think, are you okay in the head?
Yeah, I think the row is like for me, it's like an interesting case study, but I've never thought of it as like. Do you know how I see the row? Like how I see the row
Hold on.
is like
Hold on.
because
It's Ralph Lauren for rich people.
Kind of, but I was even gonna go worse than that. It's like so the bags are really, really interesting. I think their bag design is sensational, and the way they've branded it is like fantastic. But when it comes to the clothes, I see the row as like with Phoebe Philo's label now, which I actually do like a lot. I see it as like a limited version of Phoebe Philo. Like the row is like they copy Phoebe Philo, but there's only like 30% of Phoebe Philo's product range available via the row, and then the other 70% you have to go to Phoebe Philo herself to get all those other silhouettes and other colors and prints and patterns and textures, right? So it's just a limited Phoebe Philo or a more uninteresting Jill Sander is kind of how I've always seen it in my head.
TC has made a fucking amazing comment, and I realize you're recording this, so sorry, I'm swearing. AdSense. Their bags are old fucking Prada bags, made in leather rather than nylon. They're 90s Prada bags made in leather.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed this because they have a bag that's literally called the 90s, and Prada still make the same bag. Sorry, just to get on my high horse. And then somebody made a comment.
Keep going.
About, no, sorry, I'm on one. After this fashion week, I'm so angry. One thing that the row has done, and it's something Phoebe did really well, and it's something they have copied, but it is effective in terms of a brand and creating a brand. They have become the one-stop shop for rich people to look like they have taste. And what they do, instead of giving them taste in terms of, you know, you wear our clothes, you're interesting. Their stores are so interesting. So you have, you know, that one artist that maybe not everybody knows.
Right. It's like top luxury experience, right, across the industry.
Exactly. So they're telling them, look, this is the new artist that you should be buying. Do you know what I mean?
Which is hilarious because then if everyone buys from the same artist, there's no like, where's the individual taste?
Yeah, no, it's true. They don't have taste. Oh, I'm so angry. Fashion Week's fucking pissed me off.
Finn, apparently you run from one end of your room to the other during the streams.
No, it's called being fat.
TC says the row is successful because of symbolic value. The women want to belong to the community that buys the row.
Although you did put on a comment. Oh, gone.
Yeah, they make the rich people feel good. That's it. They're feeding them taste. Interesting.
And
yeah, right, Finn, actually, what comment were you talking about?
Sorry, with the feeding them taste thing. There used to be, when I used to work at a department store, people used to say that Chanel was for gypsies, not for people that actually buy luxury clothes. How bad is that?
Wait, who used to say that?
The whole of a certain department store that I worked at.
Oh my god, that's an insane statement to make.
The row is for rich people with class and security. I agree. But 2018, you put it on there earlier, was the pivotal moment, I think, for them.
When did you say 2018?
You put it on there as
Yeah. I said that, and I said that because that was when Phoebe Philo had left Celine, and so yeah, that's when Phoebe Philo left Celine. So that's when the customer base kind of opened up, because before then, their customer base was kind of growing slowly. But once she left Celine, it just exploded. Because I remember at the time, they were doing all these articles like in Vogue, in Women's Wear Daily, because I think she left Celine in like 2017, right? So it was one of those things where they were doing all these articles in Vogue and Women's Wear Daily and BOF, like, if you miss Phoebe Philo, here are the alternatives.
Yeah.
If you're craving Phoebe Philo, here is where to go. And it would be like the Row, Jill Sander, Rock, Peter Doe, all those kind of designers. So yeah, it's always been a thing that, like, when the Row really, really exploded was in that time frame when Phoebe Philo left Celine.
And also, whilst we're on the conversation of Phoebe Philo, have you looked at her most recent collection? Have you had a live about this?
No, I haven't looked at her most recent drop. I haven't seen it.
You don't need to. I think it's fucking awful.
Uh-oh. This is coming from a Phoebe Philo fan, because I'm not a Phoebe Philo fan, but you are. So why do you think it's awful, in your opinion?
So, allegedly, no. It's even worse that I'm friends with her daughter. Do you know what I mean? And she was and I said it to her face, Anyway, it doesn't matter. This new collection, obviously, there's a whole thing where they're basically doing, like, they do those drops, don't they? Do seasonal drops, 3 drops each season, and they're an edit of that, whatever they're calling it.
Yeah.
But the actual collection, I'm like, this isn't good. Like, this isn't technical in a way that makes you want to spend the money. This isn't luxury. I don't know what you're trying to be.
What about it makes it not luxury, though?
It's just like acid wash jersey t-shirts. What am I, Top Man in 2008? Like,
are the fabrics interesting anywhere, or is it also like lackluster fabrics?
It's viscose.
Oh no.
And I'm over it.
Yeah, that's another can of worms, obviously. But my thing with viscose, because you can have products that are, made with viscose that are like decent quality. My thing is just every brand seems to be using viscose these days, like every single brand.
Yeah, I think because they're trying to say it's sustainable, which it isn't. Anyway, but also they do some really nice things. Like, they do these like popped collar shirts, which is a continuation of the first season.
Right.
Which, all of the stuff that sold really well, they're now continuing every season, which is a normal thing most brands do. But the stuff that they're adding, I'm like, this just isn't interesting. Like, and I actually give the Row credit for innovating in their collections. Compared to Phoebe, which, as I said, I'm a massive Phoebe fan. So as much as I don't like the Row, I actually don't like Selena. I don't like Phoebe Philo at the moment.
Yeah.
Because you could not tell me this looks like a new collection, which I know it's supposed to be a continuous wardrobe, whatever.
I've always said, this is why I understand the timeless thing, but longevity-wise, the reason why I'm not really the biggest fan of like brands like Phoebe Philo or like, those kind of designers is, it just feels like once you buy 2 coats, what else are you buying?
Yeah.
Especially like Phoebe Philo now. With her Celine, that definitely wasn't the case, because season to season, there'll be some, like, the pumps. Oh my God, they're amazing. Like, the footwear was insane and really innovative when she was at Celine. I think she does footwear really well and stuff like that. But I think at Phoebe Philo, her eponymous label, it just becomes like, once you get like 2 coats, a few pieces of footwear, and like some earrings, like, what else is left to get? Everything looks the same season to season. Like, what brings you back?
But then I guess, I think we've had this conversation in the chat before, but, the person that's buying Phoebe Philo is the same age bracket as her and already has a wardrobe of all of her Celine stuff. So maybe she's not trying to reinvent the wheel. She's actually just trying to be like, here's your dailies, here's your basics.
Yeah, and understood. When it comes to fabrics, the fabric conversation, unless I'm like feeling the fabric itself, is not really it's not necessarily a very good conversation to have or a very constructive conversation because yeah, every fabric has good grades and bad grades. Even like cotton, you can get horrible cotton and really good cotton. You can get horrible wool and really good wool. So even if something is 100% wool, it could be really shitty wool, even if it's still 100%. And then you can get something that's like 100% wool and it's like amazing. So it's like, just because something is 100% wool, it honestly means absolutely nothing to me. I still need to feel the fabric and I still need to like test it.
It's like saying Uniqlo quality is the same as Loro Piano. Same comp.
Yeah.
Hold on. What? Some Understitch said, I was speaking to an ex-exec at a big house recently and told me Philo isn't selling. Well, I agree. And also, the quantities that they make are not very high. So,
I also just think fashion has moved on. I think fashion is a bit of it's a really tough industry, right, to stay relevant in for a long time because like she took a break and it just feels like her customer base honestly just went to the row and went to all these other brands. They're not really going back. It doesn't seem like.
but then, you know, that being said, that the Gucci section in Dover Street Market is becoming the Phoebe Philo section from January.
Right.
So they have a market, but I just don't think it's selling as much as they want it to. But yeah, I'm sorry, I've derailed the conversation. Like I said, I wouldn't.
Oh no, I wouldn't. I wanted to hear your thoughts. I always like your takes. You didn't derail it.
Talk
I
about
thought you had
Stefano
interesting
Pilati.
things to say. Oh no, we're not talking about that today, but I will in a different stream, like the Zara stuff.
Okay, I can't wait.
Quickly before I go into the next topic, actually about Stefano, but it's going to be a different live. Do you think that Stefano is like priming himself to go to a different luxury house? Because on his Instagram, he's obviously been posting all his stuff, especially from like Saint Laurent when he was there, and like really going. I actually really enjoy his posts because he's really going deep into like the reason why I designed this was because this happened and I was really looking at this and I was doing research and he'll show like his research. It's so interesting, like learning about a lot of these things, like what his thought process was when he was designing a lot of these things. But I'm wondering, why is he posting all of this stuff now?
Well, he's got his new CEO, hasn't he?
Right.
Have you read the articles about that?
No, are you talking about at Random Identities?
No. So he's got Stefano Pilati Holding.
Oh, okay.
So which this new guy who was at Celine, was at multiple places, is now the CEO of Stefano Pilati Holding, which also is
Right.
Random Identities. And from what the articles have been saying, I've read a couple, they're also reading between the lines from what has been given as quotes. But from what it sounds like is they're going to have random identities, which they're going to keep like somewhat genderless,
Okay.
expand categories and expand sizing and availability in terms of price point. And then what they're looking to do is open up a Stefano Pilati design runway line. And that's going to be like his, I'm assuming, it's going to be like his YSL days.
Interesting. I would like to see him do that though. It seems like he's really itching to like do that stuff again. Like you can tell from the way he talks about his work on Instagram that he's really itching to design on that level again. So I'd be happy if he does it.
Yeah, see, Understick, wasn't he rumored to have his own line again? Yeah, he is. And the new CEO basically confirmed it in an interview with WWD, I believe. So I think it's coming, and I think he's just going to keep random identities as like a easy for people to buy line, you know.
Right.
And then they also said they're going to do more collaborations. So whether that be Zara or whoever, I'm really excited to see the Zara one.
I want to see what he does because it'll just be interesting to see what he does because it's only a capsule collection, right?
Yes, but it's not though. You know, it's a capsule collection, but it's bigger than some runways. It's 80 looks.
Yeah.
80 looks 150 pieces, I believe.
LA is funny. Stefano's posts make it seem like he invented everything. I don't quite think so. I think no, but I think he's just talking about like different stuff he did at YSL. I don't think he's saying I originated everything that you guys are seeing now. I'm the originator. I don't get that vibe from it.
Oh, and Leo, I think when they meant collaborations, I think they also meant just down to things like, you know, if they can't produce their shoes, then they may as well use somebody to produce their shoes, you know? Because I think that's been one of the biggest problems with random identities is that they haven't been able to source all the factories at a point that people can afford. And the point in random identities specifically was that it was never meant to be expensive. Anyway, I could talk about it forever. I love Stefano as well, except for the fact he's an asshole. But
damn, this man definitely knows something I don't know.
no, he just has a bad reputation.
Okay, fair enough. Moving on, the next topic I wanted to talk about is Haider Ackermann at Tom Ford, which was extremely unexpected. Because Haider Ackermann just joined Canada Goose. And when this was announced, I was thinking to myself, like, what's gonna happen with Canada Goose? Because he literally released that, like, I don't even know if you can call it a collection. It was just like some hoodies and like sweatpants. The stuff now that you're seeing on the screen. For Canada Goose, and they actually, when it was announced, I went to the Canada Goose Instagram page to see like what are they saying about it. Does this mean that he's going to just like quit after like not even that long? And they said, oh, we're happy to like share or something like that on Instagram. So he'll be doing both roles. Not that Canada Goose is taking any of his time, or it's going to require much work from his side anyway. So that was very interesting. Literally, the other crazy thing, before I even talk about Haider Ackermann, that I thought was totally insane, was when Tom Ford stepped down from his brand, of course, Peter Hawking became the creative director. Now, I thought that Peter Hawking was an amazing fit because Peter Hawking has been with Tom Ford forever, literally since the Gucci days of Tom Ford. He's been like damn near Tom Ford's like right hand. And to see that Peter Hawking only designed like, was it 2 collections? And then all of a sudden left. I don't even know why he left, or if it was like the execs weren't happy with what he did,
Tom
or
Ford
you know,
wasn't
those
happy with
kind
him.
of things. Really?
Oh my god!
Why though?
Guys, there's so many articles about it.
I didn't look into it. I was just confused as to like why would he not want Peter Hawking to be at the brand when he was literally there forever. Like they got on so well. I remember listening to interviews when he first went to Tom Ford. He did a podcast, I can't remember with who, where he was talking about how much love he has for Tom Ford and how Tom Ford basically like did so much for him and started his career and gave him a job when like he was young and he really needed it and like all that sort of stuff. So that's a shame.
There's so much, yeah, and like even to the point where they weren't happy with his wife being too involved, and they were taking samples from like her wardrobe and like complete copying them. Execs from different brands were saying like, "You're too YSL, you're too Celine." Like at least, like even if it looked Tom Ford, like they were seeing that they were stealing pieces from the brands and direct copying it. Like there was a lot of behind the scenes stuff going on. And then Tom Ford got pissed off, yeah, for Tom Ford like cosplaying sort of thing. And when the runway happened, apparently it's all in. Let me find the article and I'll put it in the chat.
Yeah, I'd love to look into that after, because I was like, it just didn't make sense to me. And even if, okay, I get that, but I don't understand. Anyway, fashion is weird. I don't understand the way people have friendships or relationships in fashion. But if I've known someone for that long, I don't see how our relationship could break down over like something like that. I just don't get that personally.
From the only thing I will say is what I've read, and it is public, so I'm not like spilling tea, is that Tom Ford was left with a bad taste in his mouth about the undercurrent of like Tom Ford himself not doing whatever the what's the guy called that left? Sorry, my brain's gone dead.
Peter Hawking.
Peter Hawking.
Yeah.
What he said about like kind of the state of the different studios and things like that in different articles, it kind of left a bad taste in his mouth.
I don't know, man. I just think fashion people are just weirdly petty and sensitive over stuff that like isn't that deep. That's just my personal like take. But hey, that's just what I think. But to go into Haider Ackermann, of course, he's been appointed as the creative director at Tom Ford. So the first thing that honestly came to my mind when he was appointed as the creative director of Tom Ford, I thought about Berluti. And the reason why I thought about Berluti was I didn't like his time at Berluti. Obviously, he wasn't there for a really long time. But the reason why I thought his time at Berluti was really strange was because he took over after, I think Alessandro Sartori was there, because Alessandro Sartori went to Zegna. And he's honestly been able to like reshape Zegna and turn it into, you know, a very, very interesting brand and modernized it in many ways. And I really like where he's taken Zegna. And Haider Ackermann replaced him. And even at the time, I was like, why is Haider Ackermann going to Berluti? Like, Haider Ackermann is the kind of designer that mixes, you know, textures and fabrics and prints and layers different fabrics in very unique and interesting ways. And that just isn't Berluti. Like, Berluti is a footwear brand that is now known for like a boring level of tailoring that like people in tech wear, like the kind of suits that people in tech would wear to work. Like that's Berluti. And it just, you could even see when you look at a lot of the Berluti collections that Haider Ackermann did, I actually put some of them on the screen. You can tell that his creativity was actually stifled by being at Berluti. Like you could, when you look at the collections, you literally could see that he's just like a shell of himself. And that's not to say that he's obviously his design, he's an amazing designer. I'm literally like a fan of Haider Ackermann. But you could tell that he was kind of like restricting himself at Berluti because he couldn't really do what he does best at Berluti. And that's part of the reason why I think it didn't work. It's part of the reason why I think it didn't resonate. It's part of the reason why I just think it didn't gel. And that's why he left shortly after joining. He barely lasted that many collections. So I just thought that was a weird time because now when I think of Tom Ford, of course, Tom Ford there's more scope to be more creative. And I also think that Haider Ackermann, he's amazing at menswear, but his women's wear is also sensational. And I think that he can really bring that balance to Tom Ford that I don't think is there right now. So yeah, but Finn, what do you think? Oh, they've gotten to Finn, guys. Okay, I thought you had disappeared.
I was put in the Discord. I've put some of the article. I've got it as a PDF. What was the question?
What do you think about Haider Ackermann at Tom Ford? I was obviously talking about Berluti, and I thought that him at Berluti wasn't a good fit. And I was saying that it reminded me of. I didn't like it. It wasn't for me.
Oh no, Seal, I think that was his best work.
Oh hell no. I totally disagree with you there.
Oh my god, I think his Berluti was his best work.
Oh hell no. I definitely strongly disagree with that.
Yeah, I loved his Berluti. It's to the point where I craved it. That to me was the men's Celine.
Are you trolling?
No, genuinely not.
What did you enjoy about it?
It just felt so luxury. I mean, this is literally me. Roll back 15 minutes ago when I said I don't want to look luxury. But it was like a little bit rock star, but it was still fucking luxury. And it was like, I could wear this to the office. And genuinely, this is me gushing. Like, I think it is amazing. I'm not trolling.
Yeah, I thought you were trolling. When you said it's like the menswear Celine, I was like, is this guy trolling?
No, genuinely, I think it's amazing. And I actually didn't always like his mainline stuff. And then when he went to Berluti, I loved it.
See, I'm different. We're like the opposite kind of customer then, because I his like mainline stuff, what? Like one of my favorite collections, I was actually talking about it in the Discord. I'll put it on the screen now, is this collection here, the Fall Winter 2012 collection. Now, like context, I can honestly talk about this collection forever, but just context. So one of the big overarching like themes in this collection was the fact that a lot of people used to say that his clothing isn't wearable, which I thought was very strange because Haider Ackermann is like very wearable. Maybe it's because of the way it was styled, maybe it's the prints and patterns. So within the way that he likes to design this collection specifically, he wanted to like show a collection that he can do where it's wearable, but it's also like still his codes. You still get like the weird textures mixed together. You still get the weird layering that he likes to do. You get the sharp tailoring. You get kind of like the Japanese inspired silhouettes also. You get all of that just styled in a different way where customers can find it more commercial. And he was kind of trying to prove a point with this collection.
So I think his image is amazing. Like the product, the runways have always looked good.
But
would you say
like the
quality's
clothing
risen,
to
though?
me, okay, quality no, but I have a lot to say about the quality. So the thing about Haider Ackermann quality is his brand was owned by BBVA,
That
and that was
fucking
run by
Andy
Anne
owner.
Chappelle. Yeah, Anne Chappelle, who owned Andy. And one of the reasons Andy actually left the brand, she left the brand for many reasons. One of it was because she fell out with Anne Chappelle because Anne Chappelle just wouldn't listen. Like when I tell you, I say this as like my favorite brand is Andre Lemista. I have more than 11 pieces from Andre Lemista from over the years. And I can tell you, like, when BBVA owned Andy, it was a shit show. Like, I have pieces that are smalls, mediums, larges, and extra larges, and they all fit me the same way. Like, their sizing made absolutely no sense. How can I fit into a small and a large? It was almost like in their factory, they just find whatever label is closest and then attach it to the clothing because clearly there's no like, didn't even think about the labeling. The quality of Andy went to the shitter. And the same thing happened with Haider Ackermann's like mainline. Also, the quality just went to absolute dog shit. But that's why I like a lot of the earlier Haider Ackermann because there was a lot better quality mixed with like what he does that I really love, like the sharp tailoring that he does that I've always been a fan of, the weird, really like interesting colors and the weird fabrics that he likes to use and like layer, like stuff like this is just what he does. But yeah, later on, I wasn't a fan of Haider Ackermann, even though I did like the designs, but the quality, I just wouldn't buy it because the quality just went so downhill. So yeah, that's a very valid question to bring up. The quality was questionable.
But actually, you said something there. One of his, I think his last menswear collection, which is a winter collection that he did, is
Yeah.
still one. There is still multiple pieces that I'd buy. So, you know, me saying that it wasn't my thing, like there is still collections that I loved, you know. There was like these beanies that he did that were like patterned and plain, and they were just the right amount of pattern where somebody like me who doesn't really wear patterns would still wear them.
Right.
And yeah, he was so clever, especially with sort of satins, then with the cashmere knit. Like his textures have
I
always been
love the way
amazing.
he uses satins. It's insane. And like he would always make these like satin trousers in like really weird shiny colors, like purples and like oranges and reds and stuff.
Also, did anybody in the world, and I mean this genuinely, not a shade, buy that Fila collaboration?
I don't know. I certainly didn't.
But I didn't even know it was available.
I definitely knew it was available.
But there is some. Actually, I do have some tea. Apparently, that Haider Ackermann almost didn't show up for his own runway for Jean Paul Gaultier.
Really? Why?
Yeah, the Jean Paul Gaultier team absolutely hated him.
So I've heard, obviously, I don't know Haider Ackermann personally. I've heard that he's hard to work with. I've definitely heard that, which is why most times when he works at places, he doesn't last long
Yeah.
because he's really hard to work with. I've definitely heard that. And like history would suggest that because he never lasts long anywhere. No, it's just true. The truth is the truth. It just is what it is. But as a designer though, I'm a massive fan, but yeah, he just never seems to last long anywhere.
Do you think his designs, and this is just me reading between lines, do you think he is a very good fit for people that like Yoji and Rick, like especially early Rick and Yoji?
Early Rick, yes. Early Rick, yes, but it's a bit too much color for Rick.
No, but I mean, it's almost for the client that wanted the color.
Right.
Do you know
The
what I mean?
silhouette wise, I can see some similarities with like early Haider and early Rick, to be fair. Although Haider Ackermann uses like really weird like textures that are a bit more weird than Rick Owens. And then obviously Haider Ackermann will like mix wacky ass patterns. And I don't think Rick ever does that.
No, not really. Oh, I love this couture collection, guys.
Yeah, this is another obviously standout thing that Haider Ackermann has done recently as like a show of his design prowess. For people that don't know, of course, what essentially happened was Jean-Paul Gaultier himself, he quit designing couture at his own label, and he started having guest designers who can come in and design a haute couture collection under the Jean-Paul Gaultier house. So this is Haider Ackermann's collection with Jean-Paul Gaultier. They have also had other guest designers like Glenn Martin, Simone Rocha, who else off the top of my head?
Sakai.
Yeah, Chitose Abe. They've had quite a few people design like guest collections. I feel that he hates that he has a job now. Damn. Why do you hate that he has a job?
No, he hates it because he can't be with twinks and travel every day.
Oh my god. Leah says, after you posted this, I immediately went and investigated so many amazing looks.
His trousers have always been impeccable.
Like, I love his trousers. Like I said, even like the fabrics he uses also.
There's just this like, they're always cropped. They're always like a carrot cut, but they're just perfect. Or they're like super low rise, but they're formal.
Understood said, what was interesting to me was at the Simone show, the Jean-Paul Gaultier show was all anyone was talking about. Damn. Luke says, some of these looks indicate he would be good at McQueen. I think Haider would be good at a lot of brands, to be honest. I wonder though, McQueen though, do you feel like McQueen would pay the salary that like Haider Ackermann would probably command? I don't think they would. I don't think they would be willing to. I know they are, but why is Sean McGear there if like they could have hired a Haider Ackermann instead?
That's a very good point.
Sometimes it makes me think that they want like a designer they can mold more so than a designer that's just going to do their own thing. And so they don't want to pay as much also. Hence the like Sabato, Desano, hence Sean McGear, like all that sort of stuff, because that's all carrying. McQueen, Gucci.
Oh, he's always been great at linings as well. Sorry.
Oh yeah, 100%.
See, now I'm saying it, I do really like his work, but I just don't always like it as a whole. I like his key signatures, you know? It's so
interesting because with Haider, obviously I like the menswear. I used to wear a lot of the menswear, but also the women's wear, even though I couldn't wear any of it, I just absolutely loved it. I just thought it was so good. Obviously, Fall Winter 2012 being one of my favorite collections, where he was literally doing these like long line blazers, but then adding like the motorcycling jacket detailing on the shoulders, and it was just insane. The Nectar Man says sometimes we need new talent emerging. That is a good point. Although I don't. Hot take quickly. I don't know. I think questions need to be asked about the way a lot of designers these days think about fashion, like Sabato, who I'm not a big fan of at all, or like even Sean McGear, who I'm kind of indifferent about. But like, I just I think there's a bit of a hole in the way that some of these designers, not saying new designers do that, because there's new designers that if someone asks me, who do you recommend for this job? I can give you 20 names of amazing designers. But for some reason, the ones that these brands pick, the way that they think about clothing and the way they design is so uninspiring. Like there's nothing they do that's innovative in any way. Like when Haider Ackermann came onto the scene, when people like Rick Owens came onto the scene, they rip people off. Like in the case of like even Phoebe was ripping off like Jilson and Helmut Lang, but then she started designing things and making stuff her own. The same thing with Rick Owens. He would like jack a lot of stuff from Madeleine Vionnet and then eventually found his silhouette and then became his own. And that's something that Yoji says, like copy, copy, copy until you kind of find yourself. It's like actually really good advice. But the designers now, they don't even when they copy things, it looks bad. Like, do you remember that Met Gala look that
Don't
Sean
talk about that
was
look.
referencing for McQueen? Even when he copied it, it looks horrible. You can't even copy well. So like, I just think questions need to be asked about the way some of these new designers that people are picking. Why are they picking these designers? And why do these designers design this way, like in such an uninspired way? Like questions need to be asked, in my personal opinion.
And it's like, hate Sarah Burton, yeah. So hate Sarah Burton's vision as much as you want. Everything she did was finished beautifully.
I agree.
You know, there's sometimes you can't knock it when things are, beautiful gowns, beautiful gowns.
And Duke says they copy, but they don't improve at waste of time and money. Understood says they're not picking them for design prowess. They are picking them because they think their clothes will sell. Well, that's clearly a bad idea because that's not working. Like we know what's been going on with Gucci financially. Clearly, that's not working.
Do we think that's and I'm going to defend Sabato here. Do we think that's a Sabato problem or do we think that's an economy problem?
I think it's two things can be true at once. I think it's a partially Sabato. I think his clothing is very uninspiring, but then part of it is also the strategy of the brand itself. It's kind of like with Burberry. For all the problems of Burberry, I don't think any of it is like Daniel Lee's fault, for example, because I actually like a lot of his collections, apart from the most recent collection.
Agreed.
So realistically, sometimes it can be both. It can be partially the designer, partially the team, partially the way they're marketing it, partially like it can be many different factors all in one.
Although T went into the Burberry store the other day. No, I went. Sorry, the last time I was on a live, I spoke about a Burberry store, but I've been into another one since, and I don't think they really talk about the design enough.
Really?
I think when they were under Christopher Kane, they really got used to sort of just, they sold a check or they sold a dream or there was such a strong identity with Burberry, and that now you go in, and I kind of think Tisci has messed up for them their brand identity to a point where he's Daniel Lee is making really great product.
Yeah.
But the team.
Why do you think it's not resonating though? Because I just think the Burberry Daniel Lee stuff is so good. Like, why is it just not resonating? It really confuses me. Obviously, the price point, we've talked about that in the past, but like, aside from the price point, people don't even talk about the clothes. Like, for example, brands like The Row, the price point is insane, and loads of people that could never afford it still talk about it.
Do you think it's because you made a comment earlier, the Row's always been expensive, so people expect expensive?
That could be part of it, to be honest.
Because Burberry at one point was the same price as buying like a Mulberry.
Yeah.
It was that mid-market. Not mid-market. That's a bit shady, actually.
Oh, Luke said Christopher Kane. Yeah. Finn meant Christopher Bailey, but he said Christopher Kane. It's fine.
Sorry, guys.
I've been sick. All of us misspeak. It's a live stream. He's been talking for a long time, guys.
All right, just
you know what he meant. But yeah, even talking about Christopher Bailey though, like Christopher Bailey, had a really hard job, because when Christopher Bailey was there, he was trying to like take it away from the chav associations, and he tried really hard to do that, and I think eventually successfully did that.
Didn't Christopher Bailey literally into his last 2 or 3 collections not even use the Nova check?
Yeah, but that was the reason why, because they're trying to like repurpose, like reposition where Burberry is in the market, and like reposition like the way people view Burberry and what the perception of the brand is. And so that was a hard job to do, and you just would have thought that by the time he handed it over, it would kind of just be like, just continue it. But Ricardo, I just think there was just no through line with a lot of the collections, and the commercial stuff was some of the worst stuff I've ever seen in my life. Like that TB check that they just put on shoes and t-shirts and hats, it was god awful.
Yeah, it was bad.
Like I used to see that stuff in Selfridges and be like, good lord.
But I hate to say it, the Essex boys bought it.
The Essex boys.
You know, if my local builder is wearing a Burberry t-shirt, you know it's infiltrated like everybody. And I don't mean that as a cunty gay comment. I just mean, like, if my local builder who has cash money, right, they get paid all the time, right?
Yeah.
Is going to
builders are actually rich, you know. Contrary to popular belief, builders have a lot of money.
That's what I'm saying, but they just don't have any taste.
Yeah.
Sorry, they want to show their money. That's what it's like in my. That's what it's like in my area.
No, I lived in Essex for a few years. I know what you're saying.
And it's like
everyone just wears like loud logos. They just want to show off logos. That's the typical Essex thing. It's not even like a stereotype. I lived there. Like that's how people dress.
And once it hits those people, like, you know, it's hard to go back from it. And then when you take that away from that audience, you know, they've got cash to spend and they want to show it.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you take that away from that customer base away, because that's what Daniel Lee's done. He took that away, which makes people like me happy, because I don't want to see that shit. But I don't know.
But even if Daniel Lee took it away, once again, like I've obviously done the whole live stream about Burberry, but once again, the greater issue is the fact that they jacked up the prices. That's the greater issue.
And they don't want to retract on it, which is so funny.
Yeah, it's funny. Did you see the interview with the new CEO where they asked him like, okay, now that you've realized that you can't make Burberry the new Bottega, because that's the initial reason why they hired Daniel Lee, are you going to reduce prices? And he said, yeah, we have no intention to reduce prices. I'm like, ugh. When do people learn?
Well, that being said, actually, Balenciaga also made a similar comment, you know, when there was so many comments about it being too expensive. And now their jersey line has gotten cheaper. So, you know, as much as they say these things, watch a couple of their price points start getting cheaper again.
But it has to get cheaper, because otherwise they won't survive. Like that's just the reality of the situation. Like you can pretend all you want, but reality is reality. Like you're not doing well. You've been kicked out of the FTSE 100. You're about to get kicked out of the FTSE 250. Like we can see it. Like we can see the figures. We see how the stock shares are going down by the minute. Like we can actually go online and view these figures for ourselves. Like you're not going to act like everything is okay and everything is fine and dandy at the brand when it's not.
Agreed.
Leo says, the prices do not match the methods they're using to meet their expected targets. Burberry are lost in that department because their new designs and their new ideas and designs become unapproachable. In short, these CEOs are delulu.
But did you notice? Oh, do you know what? Actually, I don't even want to talk about Burberry. Just because I become so neurotic about certain details that I've noticed.
Yeah. Going back to Haider Ackermann, though, what do you think we can expect from Haider Ackermann at Tom Ford? Like, what do you think he's going to go back into his bag where he's doing these like, you know, like really nice like trousers that are cropped in like these silks and satin fabrics and interesting colors and layering different textures and different prints? Or do you think he's going to do something more like classic, like what he did at Berluti?
I think it's going to be a mix between what he did at his own brand and what he did at Berluti, and which is, by the way,
Right.
exactly what Tom Ford is now, just with a
Yeah.
bit more flair.
Because over the years, Tom Ford has gotten way, way, way more commercial and way more like safe. A lot of the modern collections are really, really safe.
They should bring back those sequin football jerseys, guys. Also, do you know what? I can't even say it on this live because I feel like I just look like I'm shitting on people.
What are you going to say? Go on.
Yeah, I was looking at some old Tom Ford collections the other day for Gucci, and I just don't think they're that good.
Okay, I don't think you're shitting on. It's funny because there's opinions that like I have, but I don't talk about it because no one asked me. But if someone asked me, I'd like be like, yeah, yeah. Like I don't see Tom Ford as like mad innovative in terms of like what he was designing. I think a lot of it is like when people talk about it, it's like nostalgia and like branding. I think it's also the fact that obviously commercially he did save Gucci. So the narrative of him commercially saving Gucci adds cachet to all of the clothing. So even if it's not like from a design standpoint, like, oh my God, this is insane. Look at the way that he's tailored this garment. I think part of it is very much like the nostalgia of the fact that he saved Gucci and like the impact that he had and like the marketing campaigns, obviously like the famous pube campaign that he did with Gucci, like all these different things, right? It was more like an image, it was more an aesthetic, it was more like a lifestyle, more than, you know, this clothing is so monumentally like insane. When I think of designers that design things that are like interesting from a design standpoint, right now, I think of designers like Kane and Amia, or these are people that are really innovating design-wise. Like Kane and Amia is like up there. The guy at Anrelish, what's his name? Muranaga, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's doing that. Kunihiko Muranaga, I think is his name. But yeah, he's like really innovating in terms of like design. These are like when you look at design, clothing, silhouettes, you know, structure, pattern making. These are the people like Gino Watanabe with a lot of his modern shows too is doing that. Tom Ford is not that. That's not, if you're going to Tom Ford, that's not what you're getting. So I think it just depends how you look at it. But if I do think people talk about his Gucci as if it was innovative from a clothing design standpoint, which it isn't. But I do think it was innovative in different ways. That's all.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Also, Understitch has just said something to me that I in the chat that I didn't know. Tom Ford went to Ferragamo.
What
Did you
Tom
know that?
Ford?
Worked at
No,
Ferragamo? I didn't know that.
I don't remember him being at Ferragamo. I remember what I remember from Tom Ford is Gucci, and of course YSL.
I hate this one as well.
Why?
I thought Albert Abad did a better job.
Fair enough. It is kind of funny though that obviously Yves Saint Laurent himself didn't like Tom Ford's YSL.
Look, some people have taste.
Yves Saint Laurent was always complaining when Tom Ford was there, like, "Oh my God, he's destroying my brand collection by collection, one at a time." Like he used to like complain about Tom Ford being there, like he did not like it.
But that being said, right, I'm saying all of this. I can be the arsehole of arseholes, right? But I can also admit that I do love Tom Ford accessories. And
But
sunglasses,
the
I
thing
would buy
is,
100 pairs.
like that's what people buy. Like people buy, like a lot of men buy the Tom Ford footwear and suits. Like they absolutely love it. they absolutely like, especially the footwear, like Tom Ford footwear for men is massive. And then Tom Ford sunglasses for men. They have the aviators that are really iconic for men. The Tom Ford aviators, people love those. And then these like black frame sunglasses that people love. So no, I think his accessories like are quite iconic. And obviously, we can't even talk about the fragrance line. That's one of the most successful designer fragrance lines across the whole industry.
Oh, I love his fragrance line.
Same.
And I'm not even a fragrance guy. And my mum is not a fashion person. Well, she kind of is. Anyway, but she has worn
You
the same
lying
pair.
on your mum's name? Crazy.
Well, she's not like, you know. Anyway,
Didn't you say she like buys pieces though here and there? She would like buy a piece.
yeah, I mean, she's got like Simone Rocha and Issey Miyake and stuff, but it's not like, you know, she's not like me who sat here looking at collections. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
She always says anytime she walks past Tom Ford, it could be a perfume stand in Selfridges, it could be in Debenhams when Debenhams was about. She always go, oh, Tom Ford, isn't it so classy? So he's obviously did something which is like he infiltrated the zeitgeist of being like, if you wear a Tom Ford fragrance, if you wear Tom Ford sunglasses, you are classy and you're rich, you know.
Exactly. If he's wearing Tom Ford on the first date, he's about to ask you 0 questions.
Literally my best friend.
Uni says, most people's mama do not own Simone Rocha and Issey Miyake. That's true. Why does Micah always like fucking coming to my door when I'm midstream? I feel like he does it on purpose. He's trying to disrupt my streams, guys. Should I open the door? Guys, should I open the door? Should I leave him outside in the cold?
Leave him outside.
You're nice.
I don't like people, so it's fine.
Oh my god, you guys are mean, saying I should keep him out.
They get it.
That's crazy. But yeah, I'm honestly looking forward to it because I'm just happy to see that Haider Ackermann is actually at a brand where we can see him, you know, in all his creativity. Because that, obviously being a fan of Haider Ackermann for so long and then seeing the Jean-Paul Gaultier collection after like he had a bit of a hiatus was so nice to see. And that Tom Ford will just be good so that he has a proper creative outlet, because Canada Goose is not a creative outlet for a designer of Haider Ackermann's ilk. Haider Ackermann could probably design those Canada Goose collections in 5 seconds.
This is the collection that I really liked, by the way.
Oh, the Haider Ackermann collection?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the beanies. I fucking love the beanies. And that pep, what's it called? You know those vitamin C tablets that you get that fizz? And then you have the piss the next day. I love that yellow. So good.
But yeah, and the Belgians, like, obviously Haider Ackermann's not per se Belgian, but like the people that go to the Royal Academy of Fine Arts in Antwerp, they have like a sensibility that I really like, whether it's like Haider Ackermann or like Glenn Martins, or even like I think Chris Van Ash went there too. There's just a specific sensibility.
Hold on, Luke coming for people that are bold, and bitch, I am bold. But no, the colours in this collection are insane. Those blues, that piss yellow. Oh my god, that acid piss yellow is so good.
Yeah.
I have such a way with words.
Canada Goose's Haider Ackermann's Uniqlo C. I think it's worse than that. Because Uniqlo C, you do put in some effort. I think with Canada Goose, like, realistically, because it's not Montclair, like, there's nothing that Canada Goose is going to do that's going to be overly innovative. I don't think they're going to allow him just design some crazy shit like a Montclair Genius collab.
Yeah, but then you think, actually, before Montclair Genius, Canada Goose was doing collaborations with Wertheimer and Y Project.
They also did a collab with, I think, did they do one with Juno Watanabe? I feel like they did, but I might have been the
No,
North Face.
Ginger, wasn't it?
Oh, it was Ginger. There we go. But yeah, they've done good like one-off collaborations, but like when it comes to, because Moncler Genius was like year after year after year, and it was like a good amount of designers, like at least like 8 to 10 each season. You'd have like Rick Owens, J.W. Anderson, like Matthew Williams. Like there was a good. They'd have obviously Grenoble, which is obviously like a recurring thing. So yeah, all these things were like going on. I don't know if like Canada Goose has that like scope.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Also, I feel like Genius has died a death.
Yeah, I don't hear about Genius anymore. They're not doing any more with it. I don't know why though.
Who knows? But no, very excited for Haider Ackermann at Tom Ford. Just to see, and also I think like it's such a weird appointment, but it makes so much sense.
You think it's weird? I thought it makes a lot of sense, to be honest. Because I know Tom
No,
Ford does like Haider Ackermann's designs. Like he's expressed that a few times.
I think no, sorry, weird in the sense that I didn't see it coming because of I thought Peter
Okay,
Hawking was going to be there for a while, and then
Sam.
and then I genuinely thought prior to Sarah Burton getting the job at Givenchy that Haider was going to get a job at LVMH. So I genuinely thought that. So you say it's very expected, Luke. Yeah, no, I get that Tom really liked his designs and stuff, but I just didn't see Peter leaving so suddenly.
Yeah, I honestly thought Peter would be there for like those crazy tenures, like 10 years, 11 years, because he was there from Gucci days. This man has seen Tom Ford in every. He was there in the Gucci days, he was there in the YSL days, he was with Tom Ford at the eponymous label. Like, what? How did they just fall out like that?
It's
He's
mad.
been there forever.
And also, how can somebody who no longer has a stake in his own brand have such impact on his own brand still?
I know. It's just insane. On this, it said, didn't Genius from the beginning say they were going to be capped at 8 designers? So Genius is a bit confusing because they'll have 8 designers, but then they have recurring things that they put under the Genius umbrella, like Grenoble, for example, was under the Moncler Genius umbrella. And they were like, I'm trying to remember, there are a few other sub-labels of Moncler that they rebranded and put into the Genius umbrella. So it then became like 10 to 12 separate collections each season under Moncler Genius.
Do you know who I want to bring back? Tom Ford at fucking Moncler. That was insane.
Also, guys, have fun with Finn for a bit. Let me actually open the door for Micah.
Oh, is he actually there?
Yeah, he is.
Oh, I thought you were joking.
No.
All right, I'll talk to people. Don't you worry. Hey guys. The stream goes to 0. Ten hours later. I think, guys, I can't put you on the stage thing, so I'm just going to read it out. I think the Haider pick is more likely to generate buzz and bring a new, fresh audience of fashion people to the brand, which is maybe what they are looking for. While good, Peter may have been a bit bland. He was very bland, let's be honest. Ginger Overlord, is that me? Are you fucking calling me Ginger? True though. Also, thanks, Leo. Thanks for protecting me.
Okay, so I'm back. Last topic that I want to go into quickly is obviously Sarah Burton at Givenchy, which kind of makes all the sense in the world. Like she's basically following in the footsteps of Lee McQueen. Because obviously at Givenchy as well. It's been with Lee McQueen forever. Do you know that she interned at McQueen in 1996 when she was still a fashion student? That was before I was born. That's insane. Like, that's insane. And then she obviously, when she graduated in 1997, she joined the company full time. And in 2010, after McQueen's unfortunate passing, she became the creative director. But like, it's so insane that she's literally been there since 1996, since before I was literally on this earth.
I'm excited for her Givenchy.
I'm really excited because I think that I don't like bashing people, but it just kind of happens naturally. But like, I didn't like Matthew Williams Givenchy apart from the accessories because I thought the accessories are really good, and I think that he set up Givenchy for success accessories wise. But when it comes to like the clothing, I just wasn't a fan, and I like the direction that Givenchy were going in. Like 2 seasons ago for their fall winter 24 collection, I actually got to go to their like atelier and I got to speak to the team and they ran me through the whole collection and they were telling me why they did certain things, what their inspiration was for the thing. They were like, looking at old Hubert de Givenchy things, bringing back like his famous cat prints and stuff, bringing back on the lining the 70s Givenchy logo. The fabrics were amazing, kind of like the techniques that they use on the clothing. Let me see if I can put it on the screen actually, because actually people need to see this stuff.
No
I took
direction
pictures.
though.
That's the only issue, because obviously there's no like overarching like creative director there. But in an individual sense, like when I was looking at each individual like piece, I was like, oh, this is really good. 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 Yeah, these are some of the images I took when I was there. And some of the stuff that was just there. But yeah, it's just like from the fall winter 24 collection.
Just quickly, I've seen Luke thinking it's saying about being a cool game changer. I don't think it's going to be a cool game changer at all. Right? I just think that she's a good person to have at Givenchy, and she will keep that horse alive because she'll keep feeding it, and she'll feed it with stuff
And
respectfully.
the basis of a lot of Givenchy is tailoring, and that's literally what Sarah Burton is known for. Like when we think of Sarah Burton at McQueen, she's not as crazy as McQueen with the ideas. Like I feel like McQueen redefined tailoring with like creating new silhouettes, literally like bumpsters. And then what Sarah Burton did is refine tailoring. So McQueen is the redefiner and she's the refiner. So I think Givenchy, they just kind of need someone that can design couture, which I think she can do, have classic designs, good at tailoring, wearable pieces, good commercially. I think she can do all of those things.
And also, before Galliano was at Givenchy, Givenchy isn't really known for being the most interesting designer in the world.
Yeah, it's just very classic, very well made. That's like the basis of what Givenchy is.
So I'm not expecting it to be, earth-shatteringly amazing. I just think it's going to be very well made, really nice accessories, and there is nothing wrong with that as long as it has one vision.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just getting old.
Definitely, I'm just getting old. Finn, you're still young. Stop it.
Bitch, I'm older than you. Shut up. Is there much to say on Givenchy though?
The house of Givenchy is boring, but that's why it needs total reinvention. Oh my, so that sweater's really pretty. Yeah, I love it. Givenchy needs a visionary to put it back on the map. It's dying a slow death. I just think no one really talks about Givenchy in like fashion discourse these days. Like you look at fashion discourse online, people just don't really talk about the brand anymore. It's kind of strange.
And also to Matthew Williams' credit, he had about 2 collections that I liked. And also, do you think they intentionally didn't do couture because he couldn't handle it, or do you think it was a brand decision that they just didn't want to do it?
What other reason would they not do couture for a brand that literally isn't a couture house? Like,
Like, couldn't afford
it's
it?
probably because they thought he couldn't. No, I think they just thought he couldn't handle it. To be honest, because I
That's
remember one
wild.
time hearing that. I remember one time hearing that they were gonna bring, was it Kareem Rothfeld to like consult on couture, and then eventually they just didn't like do it in the end.
See, Luke agrees with me here.
Luke is saying they don't want to do it, but I promise that Sarah Burton's probably going to do couture.
It would be nice to see again. I don't even mind if all couture houses just do one couture show a year, like the move is going.
Like, we know it's not going to make money. It's not that. Like, I just want to see Sarah Burton create really amazing clothing. We know it's not going to sell. Is just add it to they should just add it to their marketing budget. Let us see good clothing.
And by the way, guys, I liked Claire White Colours, Givenchy. Hot take.
I did too. I think most people did. I think the big issue with Claire White Colours Givenchy, it just didn't sell. That's it.
Oh,
I don't think many
did it
people
not sell?
disliked it. No, it didn't sell. It wasn't selling well.
I didn't know that.
Right, Luke said, LVMH said no, but Sarah stipulated couture was a must, so they had to change their minds. But it was a brand decision before. That's interesting. But once again, it shows that Matthew probably didn't have pull like that, because why couldn't he convince them to do it the way Sarah did?
Interesting. Yeah, I think it's a good point.
Let's see what Sarah said. It's a great honor to be joining the beautiful house of Givenchy. It is a jewel. I'm so excited to be able to write the next chapter in the story of this iconic house and to bring to Givenchy my own vision, sensibility, and beliefs.
I think Sarah will sell, because she did sell at McQueen.
At McQueen, exactly.
And like you said, they made product that Matthew Williams did do a good job at making product and reinventing product.
I think, like I said, when it comes to Matthew Williams, the accessories were great. And like I said, I think he set Givenchy up for success in the future, because I remember when I went to their atelier, they just kept talking about the bags and the footwear, like with the padlocks and stuff. Obviously, Matthew Williams like really focused on and like marketed. And it's selling really well for them. Like, look at their Instagram. Look, that's all they're pushing, damn near. Like, just boots on boots on boots on boots on boots. And this is because Matthew Williams was heavily marketing it, to the point where it was so successful by the time he left that that's all they wanted to tell the press about. When you would go to their atelier and like visit, they'll be like, oh yeah, and like we're working on this bag and we're working on these boots with the padlocks. Like, that's what they wanted to talk about.
My export is Givenchy parka coat, and it was incredible. And it was at Bicester, and it was 85% off. But
85% off. Whoa.
But it was fur hood, a real fur hood with feathers in the fur.
Wow.
It was insane. It just wasn't. If you said it wasn't Givenchy and you said it was somebody else, no, my ex wasn't Nigerian, thank you. He was.
Oh my word.
He was the complete opposite, Lithuanian. There you go.
No, you can't beat the allegations that you only date Nigerian men.
I don't even date.
Yeah, this was the lining from the 70s that they brought back like the 70s lining for Givenchy. Well, the logo also that Givenchy used to use in the 70s, like the print. They're using it as like lining in their clothing now, which is like a cool little touch.
It's a nice logo.
Yeah. It's really classic looking, and because it's just the lining, like it's really chic. Or they even had like the skirt that I showed on the screen that looks like that. So that's why I wanted to show that stuff, because it's very much like what Sarah's going to do. She's kind of just going to build on that, really.
It's mad that Tishy basically designed all of those bags and shoes.
I know.
Like, is it the Antigona? Yeah, it is.
I want to see the receipt. Says, am I literally the only person that actually likes Matthew and Williams and Tishy? They catch shows like Maria Grazia these days. Do you know what it is, though? Just because I like or dislike a designer doesn't mean that it should affect who you like and dislike. It's like fashion is very subjective. Obviously, I'm just giving my own subjective opinion on my live stream, but it's not like I don't like when it comes to Tishy. I don't think Tishy is a bad designer. I just think he wasn't a good fit for Burberry. But as Givenchy, I think he was amazing. Or like Matthew Williams. I like Matthew Williams as a designer. I just like Alix. I didn't like what he did at Givenchy, but if we're talking about Alix, I'm big fan. So I think it just depends. Also, it's very rare that I just dislike every single thing that a designer does. I can probably think that, okay, this designer isn't a good fit here. That's a really good fit. There's very few designers that I just think across the board are terrible.
And I like Matthew's Nike, so come at me. And I don't like Alix or his Givenchy.
No.
And I'm normally quite inflammatory, which is just the way I am. But I actually agree with you that, you know, even if I don't like a designer doing something, most of the time it's a fit issue. Like in terms of where they are, you know.
Right.
Micah not even saying hello is actually awful.
He seems tired. He's chilling. He was also left out in the cold.
What's that Anastasia song? Left outside alone.
Oh my gosh, that's funny. Do you reckon that as Givenchy, they'll allow Sarah Burton to kind of bring a slight McQueen edge? Because if we're going to be honest, that's what she knows. That's where she's been her whole damn career. Like that's her whole career. Like, because I don't know. Sarah Burton is classic. She does classic well, but she also obviously still has some McQueen sensibilities. There is still like an edge there, which I don't think Givenchy is known for per se. But I feel like she can balance the two in a way that the collections look really nice.
And I have to say, the Sarah Burton client exists. And especially in women's wear, those corporate girlies be buying Sarah Burton McQueen. They were buying it.
Yeah. But she does, like, her commercial stuff is really good because it's nicely tailored. For the price, it was good. At least at McQueen, for the price, it was like decent quality. It's easy to wear. You can wear it and not look like totally out of place. It's kind of like, you know, like what you're saying, where I can wear it to the office. I can wear it to, like, you could wear a lot of her pieces in like various settings and not feel out of place or like you're doing too much or you're the center of attention. So no, I think, yeah, that Sarah Burton customer is definitely there.
I think that stuff was really nice. It just,
I agree.
I just didn't look at it and go McQueen. And I think, actually, does that matter now that she's at Givenchy?
But it's only because I think with McQueen, because McQueen is so, maybe theatrical is not the word. That's more Galliano, but like, he's very, like where he pulls inspiration from is really far and wide. And it makes for very distinctive collection season to season. Whereas like Sarah Burton is just like, yeah, I'm just gonna refine the tailoring, but her ideas are not as rich or deep or vast as McQueen. So then all her clothes just end up being really commercial. So that's why it doesn't feel McQueen, because McQueen would like the ceiling would be partially falling from the building, and it's a commentary on like, you know, how places are being gentrified. Like that's a McQueen way to do things, but Sarah Burton just doesn't do that at all. So that's why it would always feel a bit off.
Yeah. But then, like you said, like they're beautifully made clothes, and they really are. I have a shirt from when I worked in retail, and I got it for 50 quid. We'll never forget. And I still wear it when I go into the office. It's a shirt dress, and I just wear it as a shirt. And it's like short sleeved, massively oversized, no collar. Or no, it is a collar, but it has just like a point of a collar on it. And I always get compliments on it. And I'm like, this is the only piece that I own from home.
Yeah, Duke, exactly. McQueen is cerebral, Burton is practical. Exactly that. Luke is saying McQueen is theatrical. I don't know why. Every time he is, but when I think of theatrical, I just think of all the way to the end. So then it just makes me think of Galliano. But yeah, he is theatrical. When I say that word and I think of designers, Galliano is like the first thing that comes to my head. So I don't, because McQueen and Galliano are not the same. They don't do theatre in the same way. Like McQueen is not like, yeah, and McQueen doesn't put his face front and center the way Galliano did at the height of like Galliano. McQueen made his work theatrical, but he didn't make himself the theatre. Whereas Galliano was like both.
And I sometimes also know, actually, do you know what? Sometimes it's okay not to speak. It wasn't even a read, I just was wrong.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like her clothes, they're very nice.
Yeah. I agree. It's just commercial and it's not. I don't see it. Obviously, it's for the House of McQueen and stuff. It's just very different to Lee McQueen's work, but I still like it though. And if it was under that house, so be it. It's different. But I think she's a good fit at Givenchy. And it's funny because I remember when we were having this conversation about who should go to Givenchy, I don't think many people mentioned her name.
No. And I know she's designing from London, so she's not moving to Paris.
Really? Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, she's staying in London.
But it's the same with practical?
Kim Jones.
Is that practical? Because the Atelier is all in Paris, no?
Yeah,
like I've literally been to the Atelier.
Doesn't design from Paris.
So are they going to like? They're going to have to move a lot of the staff over, no?
They'll have the same thing that happened at Celine Phoebe Philo. They had an atelier in the UK as well. And then they used to go for like, you know, once a month or once a week. She would go to Paris and just check, like, her and her team would bring ideas that they'd worked on in London or whatever.
Yeah. Yuki Nation says over Zoom. Imagine, guys, can you just do this? Like, that wouldn't really work. You have to be there, nitty gritty, on the floor, on your knees, like showing them how it's done, McQueen style.
Just cutting a ham off with some scissors like that, fucking. And just go chop.
Just ripping fabric. Yeah. This way, guys.
I mean, it's funny though. I think people forget that that's actually not how design's done anymore.
Wait, can we pull anything out of her McQueen collections that feel like unique codes besides polished?
Use of leather.
Yeah, she does use a lot of leather. I think she has a certain silhouette of blazer that I really associate with Sarah Burton. Like if I saw someone wearing a certain shape of blazer, I'll be like, yeah, that's definitely Sarah Burton. Let me see if I can whip it on the screen, like get a picture example of what I'm talking about. Like I
Also,
associate that silhouette with her.
Brett saying John Galliano did Walk at my shadow mostly over Zoom. You're right. And also, Loewe under J.W. Anderson, some of his best collections were done via Zoom, and he talks about it in interviews all the time.
The weirdest thing to me during like when people were using Zoom was during the pandemic, like how stylists were using Zoom, like to creatively direct shoots and stuff. It seemed like a really tedious process.
Did you see the one that Nick Knight did, and it was the Valentino one?
Mm,
He did that all over Zoom.
really? Wow. I'm just trying to get what I'm talking about, like this Sarah Burton. So like, okay, that's one example, but I'll show another one after. But this is definitely one example.
Those massive belts as well.
Yeah. There's just like, I don't know, she just has a certain silhouette that she does. Like stuff like this. This shape to me in my mind is so distinctive to like Sarah Burton. If I see someone with this kind of shape, which is what Sean McGear has kind of like tried to do, especially in his like debut. I could see it.
I'm tripping, but does that look like the new look to you? I'm on a lot of NyQuil.
Slightly, I guess, like cinch waist-ish. But like she does it, it's like it's a certain like shape across like most of her stuff. It just has like a certain shape that she always uses.
The neckline as well, that sort of squared off scoop is very her.
Yeah. Yeah, Luke says it's a classic Sarah signature, exactly. There's like she does have like a distinctive silhouette, I feel like. Even let me put this on the screen. This is something I really associate with Sarah Burton a lot. This here. Because it's that exact same shape of clothing. See? This exact same shape, like this shape here.
Is it Empire Line?
See, even with the coat, the same shape here. Once again, like the cinched in waist. She does have like a very distinctive silhouette.
Right, I've actually got to go because I've got our morning meeting at 8:30. So I'm gonna go.
Enjoy your sleep. Have a good
I
meeting.
won't. Goodbye.
Goodbye. What did Luke say? Had to say goodbye to my McQueen sales assistant because I will not be shopping there any longer. Oh my gosh. Damn. And I know, Luke, you used to buy McQueen every season. Am I right? Or did I remember that wrongly? When Sarah Burton was there, at least. I wonder how many customers that were like, loved Sarah Burton and used to buy her stuff are just totally going to like dip. Yeah, Sarah Burton has, and even though like obviously we've been saying that she does commercial stuff, she does. It's still in the commerciality. She still has some like interesting things that she does with her collections. So I don't want to. I don't want to make it seem like Sarah Burton is just out here literally just designing blazers because that's just not the case. There's so many Sarah Burton collections where she's referenced like McQueen directly, but like changed the fabric and stuff, and it's like very interesting and complicated silhouette. So it's not just like she was out here making blazers, but for the most part, that's what she did. Especially in like these like pre-fall kind of collections, you just see the blazers in this like very like the silhouette I'm talking about with the cinch waist that she does across every collection with her blazers or outerwear and stuff. Okay, Luke says, I have like 3 jackets and 2 jumpers. Oh, wow. I ran through Sarah's menswear. One of the jackets is bejeweled black satin bomber. Her stuff is immaculate. Oh my God. One day you need to hop on the stream and show us your Sarah Burton McQueen collection. I feel like that would be really interesting to see. But yeah, fashion is, I think it's in a good place. I think that the current fashion musical chairs has been really interesting. Like just seeing Claire White Keller at Uniqlo and Stefano Pilati at Zara, and then Sarah Burton at Givenchy, Haider Ackermann at Tom Ford. There's always, I don't know why, when fashion musical chairs happen, it's always so many designers at once. It's kind of like these brands plan to hire designers at the same time. They plan it together. Because why aren't they spaced out? Why is it always when we have, fashion musical chairs, it's a big fashion musical chairs with like 4 or 5 different designers going to different houses at once. And then also when there's like an exodus and designers are leaving houses, it normally happens in quick succession. It reminds me when Ludovic left Art Villemista shortly after, Luigi from Rude left Bali, and then a few other designers left houses too around the same time. It's really strange. It's really weird. The earthquakes when Margiela announces John leaving. I think we kind of have this understanding now that John Galliano is leaving Margiela. I don't think anyone will be surprised or shocked by it, because we're literally having conversations about where does John Galliano go to next. So I think we're in our heads mentally, he's not even at Margiela. Even though he's still there, I feel like mentally for a lot of people, he's not there. He's not even at the brand anymore in our minds. It's kind of strange. It's really, really weird. But yeah, before I go, final thoughts, guys. What do you guys expect from Sarah Burton at Givenchy? And are you looking forward to what she does at Givenchy like me? Because I'm a big fan of Sarah Burton. Duke says clocked out. It was a strong tenure. Yeah, people have literally just like tapped out of the fact that John Galliano is actually still officially at Margiela. We basically talk like he's not even there anymore, even though he's there. Luke says, I hope she will revolutionize Givenchy despite my hesitations. Why do you have hesitations? I'm just really curious. What are the hesitations that you have? Shout out to you. It's been a minute. Shout out to you also. Culture says, I think she's going to be great there. Fernando says, well-tailored pieces. Uni says, yes, it looks like a good fit. Duke says, Guram will take over Margiela. Please no. Please no. I want Glenn Martins to take over Margiela. I think aesthetically, Glenn Martins works for Margiela. He does like the deconstruction thing. Obviously, he's like studied in Belgium. He has those sensibilities. Like it just makes all the sense in the world. I think Glenn Martins is the only choice at Margiela, to be fair. I don't think I can think of anyone else that's a good fit, that's a better fit, sorry, than Glenn Martins at Margiela, personally. Okay, let's see what Luke says. I think because I know her last years at McQueen didn't sell a lot, plus she isn't a visionary, I think Givenchy needs someone who will give it some needed oomph. I think she will replicate Claire's run. I agree, because she's a very strong designer and she makes classic clothing that looks really nice and is really well made. But in terms of, yeah, like you're saying, revolutionary, like it's what I said, McQueen is the revolutionary and Sarah Burton is good at refining. But because I'm a fan of hers, and also I just want to see Givenchy do well, and I think that her name can bring a well-needed buzz to the brand. I just think that hopefully that will lead to Givenchy sort of building its name again, becoming a big brand, entering the forefront, entering the zeitgeist of mainstream fashion and all that sort of stuff. So fingers crossed with Sarah Burton. I'm wishing her well at the brand. Let's see what people are saying in the comments, and then I shall be taking my leave. Duke says, isn't Glenn still at Diesel? Yes, he is, as far as I know. He just left Y Project though, but he can design at 2 brands like he did Y Project and Diesel. And then also Diesel and Margiela are under the same company anyway. So it even makes more sense because it will kind of be easier. politically at least. They all quit at the same time for the same reason. Companies do layoffs at the same time to reduce the impact and attention from unpopular moves. That's a good take, actually, that on why a lot of designers join or leave brands at the same time. That's actually a really good take. New cycle moves so fast. I assumed he was already committed to a new house after leaving my project. Yeah, not yet. Not yet. But I'm very sure Glenn Martins will find another home. He doesn't need to, though, because like someone said earlier, he's at Diesel already. And maybe he, after, you know, leaving my project, he might just think to himself, maybe I need to like not have as much of a workload for a while, maybe like a year or two, and then look for a brand after. Duke says she's one of the nicest people in fashion, so I support her getting her bread. Yeah, I don't know Sarah Burton personally, but she seems like a really nice person. And I like her as a designer, like I'm a fan, so I'm always going to root for her. I'm just sad they'll probably raise prices, and then I really can't afford Givenchy. I mean, Givenchy isn't necessarily cheap now anyway. It's cheaper than a lot of other fashion brands, but it's not per se cheap. Y Project and Hamkus do some great menswear. Totally agree with that. Oh, Duke says, I didn't know he left Y Project. I thought he was doing both. Yeah, he left Y Project very recently. Let me actually Google when it was, but it was really recent. Glenn Martins leaves Y Project. Let's see. Okay, Women's Wear Daily, 6th of September. So that was, 12 days ago. So it's quite new news. It's not a story that's been going around for a really long time. I mean, I guess in fashion, 12 days is a long time in terms of like the news cycle, but it's recent. It happened really recently because he was at Y Project for 11 years and then left. Kind of like a really big deal. You says, damn, 2 weeks ago. Damn it, it's almost fucking October. That's the thing. I think the news cycle of fashion is so fast that things just happen. I guess because for me, obviously being a fashion journalist is my full-time job, so I need to know what goes on. My life revolves around fashion for the most part. But yeah, it is what it is. But on that note, thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. I really, really appreciate you guys tuning in. This was very fun to talk about. I know there was a lot of speculation that I would never talk about Haider Ackermann at Tom Ford because I kept pushing the live stream. But now it's finally happened. Thank you very much for watching. If you haven't liked the stream, definitely please like it if you want to help a man out. And I'll see you guys in the next stream. Thank you very much for tuning in.